It begins in the space before morning. Not darkness, not light. Just the gray in between, when even the cold hasn't quite remembered itself. You are lying on your side, though you don't remember choosing to. You don't remember the moment your body gave up its shape to the mat beneath you, only that you were moving once, and now you are still. The straw rustles under your hip with a long, splintering sigh. The mat has thinned again. You feel the stone floor through the brittle weave, pressed like a memory into your bones. You shift just enough to make the ache move from one place to another. It is not better. It is only different. Your breath comes slow, then slower still. You watch it plume faintly in the dark, curling above your lips like a ghost too tired to haunt. The air tastes of yesterday's smoke, stale, low, clinging. It fills the back of your throat with a quiet bitterness, not strong enough to cough, just enough to feel like you're breathing through old wool. Somewhere in the dim rafters, a single thread of soot detaches and floats gently down, invisible except where it drifts through the faintest light leaking between wall and roof beam. Behind you, someone breathes. A sibling, maybe, or someone who borrowed the same corner of straw. Their chest rises unevenly, a thin whistle in their nose. You know the sound. They always sleep with their mouth open when the cold sinks deepest into their bones. You do not turn to look. You know their shape already, curled, knotted, wrapped in themselves like something the night forgot to unwrap. There are more sounds, small, familiar ones. A mouse scuttling under the wall shelf, always in the same direction. The soft creak of the wooden bucket shifting in its sleep. The faint shuffle of feet, not walking, not dreaming, just adjusting. The fire is a dead hush in the corner. You can feel its absence more than its presence, like something holy that has gone away. You close your eyes again, though you have not truly opened them. The lids feel swollen, grainy. A smear of ash from your fingers clings to your cheek. The cold has touched everything now. Your toes curled tight under the hem of your tunic. Your knees pressed against your chest. The back of your neck damp from where your breath settled and froze in the night. Your tunic is twisted, damp with sleep. Linen grown stiff with use, not softened by washing but hardened by wear. It no longer knows what comfort feels like. Neither do you. You tug at the edge, straighten it across your shoulder, then give up. It will twist again. It always does. The mat smells faintly of mildew and goat hair and straw that has been slept on too many times. A crust of last week's bread is hidden in the corner beneath your elbow, saved in sleep or forgotten in hunger. You feel its shape, but do not move to claim it. That hunger belongs to yesterday. This morning will have its own. From outside, just beyond the cracked wooden shutter, the wind taps softly at the wall. It is not a violent thing, not cruel, only persistent. It brushes past the stone like it has always known how to get in. It finds every seam, every gap. You have learned not to fight it, only to turn your face away when it reaches your cheek. You know it will come again. It always does. You draw your knees closer, press your arms into your chest, and nestle your chin into the hollow just above your collarbone. This shape, this inward curl, is what warmth becomes when you cannot find any. You become smaller, tighter. You disappear into yourself until you're almost gone. A rooster calls far off, too far to be yours, too early to be right. But the sound lingers. It pulls something in your chest that used to be sleep and turns it gently over. You sigh, but it does not leave. Sleep is thin now, stretched, frayed. You are no longer resting. You are only waiting. Someone coughs, 2 mats over, wet, shallow, unfinished. It pauses the quiet like a stone dropped into still water, then fades into nothing again. The silence resettles, but not quite the same. Your awareness has teeth now. It bites gently into your peace, the fire. It is still only a memory. You think of the coals from last night, raked into the center, banked beneath ash like some fragile animal you hoped would survive the cold. You imagine them now, curled into themselves, still holding breath. Maybe one still glows beneath the gray. Maybe not. You will find out soon. Your toes press against the edge of the mat. The stone beyond is colder than it should be. Your breath shortens. You remain still. This is the last moment before movement, the thin line between rest and duty. You know once you cross it, you won't return until the sky has died again. A goat bleats softly outside, half a voice, more complaint than call. You know her sound. She waits beside the kitchen wall, where the sun lands first. Her hooves scrape gently on the worn ground. She is early, or perhaps you are late. You blink, not to see, but to shift the dust from your lashes. It makes no difference. The world remains shadow. Your fingers flex without thinking, cracking slightly at the knuckles. The skin is dry, webbed with old scrapes. They will bleed again by noon. You pull your arm beneath yourself, press your palm against the mat, and begin to lift. Not quickly, not all at once. Your back complains in places you do not remember injuring. Your shoulder drags against the wall, gritty with ash. You hear the soft tear of your tunic catching on a splintered board and do not flinch. It is torn before. Sitting is an act of faith. You do it with reverence, slowly, as though your body might forget its weight if you move gently enough. You sit in the half-light, legs tucked beneath you, arms wrapped loosely around your middle. You are not cold, not exactly. You are only not warm. There is a difference, though words rarely find it. The others still sleep. You hear their breaths, some deep, some broken. One snores through his nose like a small door left ajar in the wind. Another stirs, grumbles, curls tighter. None rise. That task is yours, always yours. You reach for the edge of the blanket nearest the fire, the one kept closest to the hearth's last breath. It is stiff with soot and smells faintly of cabbage and oil. You use it to press your knees as you crawl forward. The floor creaks once beneath your weight, not loud, just enough to know it heard you. You reach the hearth. The ash is cold on top, but when you press your palm just under the surface, you feel it. Faint, trembling, almost nothing. But it is there. Warmth, the memory of flame. You cradle it in your mind like something sacred. You rake gently with your fingers, coaxing the hidden coal to the edge of breath. You blow once, soft, careful. The ash swirls like pale fog. A tiny glow emerges. It flickers, dims, then holds. You breathe again, slower this time. The glow brightens, just enough to give hope shape. You feed it slivers of bark, the curlings from yesterday's sweep. A twist of linen too frayed to repair. Your hands are gentle, reverent. Each movement is the language of survival, fluent, quiet, necessary. The fire shudders, then licks upward. A thin flame, weak and beautiful. It casts long shadows across the low walls, touching faces still curled in sleep. One child turns, muttering in a forgotten tongue. Another arm reaches for warmth, too far from the flame to find it. You sit beside it, knees pulled close, palms open to the heat. It does not warm you yet, but it promises. That is enough. The coals crack softly. The wood hisses like old breath. The morning has not begun, but it will. And somewhere in the rhythm of flame, in the hush of the walls still holding sleep, you begin again, not with purpose, not with joy, but with the slow, familiar ache of duty returning to your bones. And the fire remembers you. The fire does not warm you so much as it remembers what warmth used to feel like. You sit beside it, elbows balanced on your knees, palms hovering near the hesitant flame, not close enough to burn, not far enough to freeze. The heat touches your skin like a ghost from a better hour. tentative, reluctant, nearly embarrassed to be here. Ash clings to the lines of your fingers where the kindling dusted back toward you. Your hands are gray now, knotted, dry. You rub them together not to clean them, but to make them believe they still belong to you. They creak at the joints, not with age. Age is not allowed to linger long in your body, but with the repetition of mornings that begin this way and never learn to end differently. Someone shifts behind you, not a word, just the grunt of a body rolling away from the rising light. A foot brushes the floor. A cough rattles in the throat of the older one near the corner. You know the patterns. The ones who rise too early. The ones who never learn to. Your knees crack as you stand. There is no hiding it anymore. Even your silence has a sound. You feel the pull of the night still tugging at the backs of your thighs, the tightness in your calves where sleep had folded them too long. The cold hasn't gone. It's just moved lower, clinging to the soles of your feet, waiting by the doorway where you'll meet it properly. You gather the water jar with two hands, one to hold, one to steady. It's never full this early. It never has been. The rim is chipped, and the handle groans, but it stays together. Like most things here. Like you. The door doesn't open so much as yield. Swollen with damp, it sticks at first, then sighs wide with a groan that echoes too loudly in a world still mostly asleep. You wince for the others, though no one protests. They are used to the sounds your body and your burdens make. You step outside into the quiet before morning has finished becoming day. The yard is stiff with frost, even in places the sun pretends to reach. The stones underfoot are slick, rimed with cold sweat. A chicken blinks slowly from her roost, shifting once as if deciding whether to bother with you. She does not. Your breath trails behind you like a thin thread of smoke. You try not to look at it. Seeing your breath makes the cold feel lonelier. It reminds you that you are still here, still breathing, still waiting. You walk carefully, bare feet skimming the ground, avoiding the sharpest stones by memory. The basin sits near the corner wall, half shadowed, half regretful. It is wide, shallow, already cupping ice at the edges where the night refused to let go. You crouch beside it, place the jar on the ground with a thud too solid for this hour, and reach in. Your fingers touch the surface and stop. You do not move them further yet. The cold is not water. It is something older. It bites you without teeth. It presses against your skin without weight. You know what will happen next, but you wait anyway. Not from hesitation, from the ancient aching need to delay what always hurts. You dip your hands in, slowly, together. The cold climbs your wrists, wraps your bones. The sting is immediate, not sharp, but full, as if your veins are shrinking, as if your body is arguing with itself about whether this is worth enduring. You do not flinch. You do not gasp. You simply breathe in, then out, like you're trying not to wake someone who never really sleeps. You scoop the water with both hands, bring it to your face. It runs down your cheeks like punishment. It slips into the corners of your eyes, over your nose, beneath your chin. It does not cleanse. It reminds. It tells you what you are not. Warm, rested, clean, chosen. You wash in silence because noise is too costly this early. Your skin tightens with each rinse, shrivels slightly, burns beneath the cold. You reach for the rough cloth tucked into the corner crack in the stone. It is stiff with use, sour with mildew, but it absorbs the water in uneven splotches. You press it to your face, then your neck, then your arms. Not a ritual, a requirement. The cuts in your hands have reopened. You knew they would. The skin along your knuckles splits when it's wet and freezes again when it dries. You do not look at them. They are old friends now. Small red mouths that whisper nothing you haven't heard before. The wind tugs lightly at the edge of your tunic. You pull it closer, though it makes no difference. Cold doesn't need an invitation. It lives here, in the gaps between your ribs, in the soft place at the base of your spine, in your thoughts before they have formed. A rat scurries near the wall, bold this morning. It noses toward the basket scraps, pauses, then disappears again. You don't follow its movement. You just note the sound, tiny nails on stone, the brush of fur against clay, and tuck it away with all the other quiet things you know. From inside, a cough becomes a command, though no words are spoken. You hear someone stir, a yawn sharp enough to hurt, the scrape of heel against dirt. It is beginning, not the day, but the end of the hour that belonged to you. You fill the jar with cold hands. Your fingers protest as they grip the neck, but you ignore them. Pain is not the same as injury. You've learned that. Pain is familiar, predictable. It visits every morning and stays just long enough to remind you what your name is. You carry the jar back over stone and frost, balancing the slosh with the same care you use to carry silence. The door yawns open again, and the fire greets you with the low red breath of survival. Not heat, not yet, but intention. You set the jar near the hearth. You wipe your hands on the corner of your tunic. You don't look at the blood beneath your fingernails. It's too early for that. Inside, someone mumbles in their sleep, rolls onto their side, pulls the blanket tighter. Another child sneezes once, then curls back into the crook of their elbow. A goat presses its nose against the outer wall, just once, then retreats. You know she'll wait. She always waits. You crouch again, reach for the smaller bowl set beside the stones. This water is not for washing. It is for warming, for cooking, for making the morning move forward. You ladle it with care, not reverence. You've forgotten how to be reverent with things that never change. Your hands sting again as they dry in the air. Tiny cuts tug with every motion. Skin pulls back from your nails. You press your palms against your thighs, trying to steal warmth from flesh that has none. The fire sighs louder now. 2 new twigs fed to it, a whisper of smoke, a curl of steam rising from the edge of the wet bowl. Outside, the wind taps again, not knocking, just reminding. The day waits with arms crossed. It has no interest in being kind. You close your eyes for a moment, not to rest, just to remember what it was like to not feel everything at once. The ache, the cold, the pull of duty like a stone in your stomach. You stay there, in that stillness, for a breath or two. Long enough for your fingers to stop shaking. Long enough to believe the moment belongs to you. Then, the first footsteps come, slippers against floorboards, the scrape of a curtain pulled aside, a voice without words, just a sigh, impatient, expecting. You rise again. Your hands are still wet, still bleeding, still yours. And the cold is not finished with you yet. The fire is awake now, but it has no joy in its flames. It licks at the blackened stones with a weary persistence, more habit than hunger, more duty than desire. You crouch beside it with the same dull reverence, watching the steam rise from the clay pot you've set near the edge, careful not to boil too quickly. The water bubbles with the patience of someone who has been told to wait their entire life. Your hands hover above it, palms open like offerings. The warmth seeps in slowly, nudging the sting from your knuckles, softening the cracks just enough to move without tearing. You do not hope for healing, only for pliability, for fingers that will bend when told. The clay bowl you carry is old. The rim is chipped, the base worn smooth from years of holding things it was never meant to savor. You press it into the crook of your arm, fingers curling around its edge, and rise in one slow breath. Your back protests, but not loudly. The ache has learned to keep its voice low, like everyone else in this house. The grain sack sits in the corner, tied with twine that has been mended and knotted too many times. You tug it open with 2 fingers, careful not to spill. Not because the grain is precious to you, but because cleaning it up will take more time you do not own. Inside, the contents are familiar. Crushed oats, uneven and coarse, flecked with husks that weren't sifted properly. It smells faintly sour, like old dust and forgotten flour. You scoop with your hand, slow and steady, measuring not with thought, but with memory. You know how much they will want, not by instruction, but by habit. The pot hisses as you pour the grain in. The water darkens slightly, thickens. The spoon you use has a split in its handle that pinches your thumb when you grip too tightly. You stir with care, not grace. Your movements are practiced, mechanical, meant for efficiency, not beauty. The porridge begins to take shape, though it is a shapeless thing. A slow, sluggish swirl of gray that clings to the sides like it does not want to be eaten. Behind you, a door opens. Not yours, not near, just enough to shift the air. Footsteps pad across the hall, soft and slippered, belonging to someone who has never walked barefoot on stone. You do not turn. You are not meant to notice. You are part of the kitchen, like smoke or soot or steam. Present, but never acknowledged. The porridge thickens. You add a pinch of salt from the pot in the wall nook, careful not to take too much. Salt is watched. Salt is remembered. You learned that once, early, when a finger length of it vanished under your thumb and earned you a slap you never saw coming. Since then, you measure it with your breath. A mouse skitters across the far rafter, its claws faint against the beam. It pauses near the bundle of dried herbs, nose twitching. You glance once, then return to stirring. It won't come closer while the fire is high. It knows when to wait, too. The kitchen is warmer now, but not for you. The heat rises, collects above your head, hovers near the ceiling beams. Down where you stand, it is still cold enough that your breath fogs the air. You blow on your fingers once more before reaching for the plates. Not proper ones, but wooden bowls, uneven at the rims, worn smooth by hundreds of washings and hundreds of hands that never ate from them. You ladle the porridge out carefully, each portion nearly the same, but not quite. The bowls for the older sons are filled a little higher. The master's is smaller, but deeper. He prefers it thicker. You do not need to be told. No one tells you anymore. You know what each of them likes the way you know where your own bruises are, by touch, not sight. The bread is brought out next. Flat, round, hard at the edges. It cracks when you bend it, not because it's stale, though it is, but because the heat has left it dry. You place one piece on each tray, not more, not less. You are not the one who decides, but you are the one who ensures. You take pride in balance, not because it brings you worth, but because it avoids punishment. The trays are wooden, darkened by years of use, by oils and hands and spills that were never quite cleaned. You wipe them with the cloth you keep tucked into your waistband, not to make them clean, but to make them look as if someone cared. No one does, but the illusion is expected. You carry the first tray out with both hands, elbows tucked close, steps measured so the bowls do not clatter. You know which floorboard creaks. You step over it without thinking. A child passes you in the hall, yawning, arms raised. He does not look at you. You do not look at him. The dining room is quiet, but not still. Curtains rustle faintly from the early breeze sneaking in through the window slats. A servant you barely know adjusts the fruit bowl, rearranging grapes that no one will eat. She nods at you, not in greeting, but in acknowledgement. You return it. Just enough. No more. You place the tray on the table, centered, angled properly. The spoons turned inward, the bread facing forward. These things matter. Not to them, perhaps, but to you. They are the difference between mourning and scolding. Back in the kitchen, you begin again. Second tray. Third. The porridge thickens more as it cools, clinging to the ladle like clay. You stir with effort now, each motion pulling against your shoulder. The bowl of salt has not moved. You nod to it, a quiet pact, and keep going. There are no leftovers. None for you. None for those who serve beside you. The smell of the porridge clings to your tunic, your skin, your hair. It fills your mouth without feeding you. You swallow hard, and it tastes like nothing. The fire is dying down. Not extinguished, just tired. You feed it 2 more sticks. It breathes in slowly, then exhales with a crackle too small to warm anyone. A plate falls somewhere nearby. Not yours, not your fault. But you wince anyway. The sharp clatter of it hits something in your ribs. A memory, a reflex. You count to 3 before continuing. No one comes. You wash the pots when the last tray leaves your hands. The water is colder now. Your fingers no longer protest. They have accepted this as their fate. You scrub with the old rag, the one that smells like lard and ash, and scrape the porridge crust from the rim with your thumbnail. Steam rises from the pots, barely enough to see. It curls around your wrist like smoke that forgot where it came from. The fire is a hush now, a whisper of light, nothing more. Outside, a rooster calls again. This one closer, sharper. It cuts through the quiet like a voice calling your name. But it's not your name. Just a noise. Just a bird. You dry your hands on the edge of your tunic, careful not to press too hard against the cracks. One has opened wider now, along the edge of your palm, a line of red that stings with each motion. You do not bandage it. You will not be still long enough for that. You sit for a moment, just a breath. On the stool near the hearth, where the smoke still curls, lazy and bored. The smell of the porridge is still in your nose, still in your teeth. You breathe in. You breathe out. You do not eat. And behind you, in the room beyond the door, the first bowl is lifted. A spoon touches teeth. A mouth chews. A breath of satisfaction is exhaled. You listen to the sound of them eating, the rhythm of a life you only ever prepare but never taste. And the bowl in your hands, still warm from rinsing, slips slowly from your fingers back into the water. Not dropped, not thrown, just let go. Like the morning, like the warmth, like the thought of breakfast that never belonged to you. The sound of the spoon dropping back into the water lingers in your mind longer than it lingers in the room. A soft clink, barely audible, but enough to signal that this part of the morning is over. You rise before the bowl settles, before the warmth fades, before your hands can stiffen again. You wipe them dry on your tunic, stiff and gritty, already marked by ash and steam and bread flour, and feel the sting of the cracked skin beneath. Your palms tight and hot from cold water and old wounds. You flex your fingers once, then again, as though each motion might convince them to forget what they've just endured. They don't. They remember everything. You carry the memory of labor not in thought, but in the way your body resists ease. Footsteps upstairs. 2 sets, uneven in rhythm. One slow and shuffling, the other brisk, sure, impatient. The elder daughter and her mother. You do not need to see them to know who they are. You know the weight of their steps, the sharpness of their pauses, the rustle of their garments against stone and wood and expectation. You turn toward the small shelf by the hearth, where the basin waits, chipped along the rim. You pour a little water in, cold again, of course. You never reach the part of the day where the warmth was meant for you, and soak the cloth that always smells faintly of oil and smoke. The scent is baked in, generations of it. You wring it out once, press it gently to your face, not to clean, but to hide behind it for one last second. One last breath that belongs to no one else. And then the day pulls at you again. You carry the basin and cloth upstairs, careful not to let the water slosh onto the stone. Each footfall deliberate, each breath quiet. The steps are uneven, worn in the middle by years of passage. You step where the stone still rises, avoiding the slip. You don't remember when you learned this. It was never taught, only endured. But you know these stairs the way you know the weather of your own skin. At the top, the corridor opens into shadow and filtered light, where a narrow window lets in the morning reluctantly. You pass it without looking out. The world beyond it does not belong to you. It rarely does. The door to the mistress's room is slightly ajar. You nudge it open with your foot, the basin steady in your hands. Inside, the air is warmer but heavy, thick with oils and stale perfume, and the breath of pillows too soft for labor. The curtains are drawn back slightly, enough to let in a thread of gold that brushes the corner of the couch where she sits, half wrapped in a linen robe, one slipper already on, the other abandoned beneath the bench. You set the basin down quietly. She does not look at you. She never does. You wait, standing, hands clasped loosely at your sides. Not from reverence, from practice. You have been shaped by expectation more than anything else. She lifts her arm lazily, not with instruction, but assumption. You step forward. The robe slips easily from her shoulder, and you begin your task. Her tunic is laid out on the couch, soft, layered, dyed with the sort of color that costs more than you are worth. The fabric sighs beneath your fingers as you lift it. It is clean. You washed it yesterday or the day before. The days blur in your memory, soft and identical, like footprints in damp soil. You help her into it, guiding the sleeves over arms that do not know the cold. You straighten the folds at her waist, smooth the fabric over her stomach, adjust the hem so it falls just right above her sandals. The belt is next, braided, delicate, perfumed. You wrap it around her gently, careful not to pull too tight. She will say something if it pinches, or worse, nothing at all. You do not meet her gaze, not because you're afraid, but because it has never been required. You are not meant to be seen, only used. Her jewelry is laid out in a shallow dish, bronze and bits of glass meant to catch the light. You lift a necklace and fasten it behind her neck, fingers brushing skin that smells of lavender oil and sleep. You move slowly, not because you wish to savor the moment, but because you know that speed is not rewarded. Care is expected, even if it is unnoticed. Earrings next, then a comb through her hair. You do not tug. You learn that the hard way. A door creaks down the hall. The daughter's room, the younger one. Her footsteps lighter, but hurried. You hear a thump, something dropped, followed by a sharp intake of breath. No one calls out. The house is not loud. It never is. Everything here moves in a hush, even anger. The mistress stands. Her robe slips further down, caught halfway between shoulders and elbows. You catch it before it falls, folding it with practiced hands and setting it neatly on the bench. She leaves without a word. You follow. Not too close. Never too close. The younger daughter is waiting in her doorway. She frowns as you enter, still in her nightdress, arms folded. Her hair is tangled. Her tone is sharp, though no words pass between you. Just a glance, a flick of her wrist, the kind of command that doesn't require language. You step forward. Her tunic is thinner, shorter, dyed in playful hues that remind you of petals and sky. You lay it across her bed, straighten the hem, shake out the creases. She slips into it without care. You fasten the brooch at her shoulder, pin her belt, tug gently at the fabric so it doesn't twist as she moves. She squirms once. You adjust again. Her sandals are by the door. She points with her chin. You kneel to retrieve them, brushing off a stray feather caught in the strap. You slide them onto her feet, left, then right, and tighten the bindings with quiet fingers. Her ankle is cold. She does not feel it. She leaves as quickly as she entered. Her scent lingers longer than she does. rosewater and wax, like something sweet that has gone slightly sour. You remain in the room a moment longer, eyes on the folded linens, the brush left on the table, the window where the curtain sways just slightly, touched by the wind. You do not sit. You never sit. Your own tunic is still damp at the hem. The fabric clings to the backs of your knees, streaked with ash and splashed water and the faintest trace of porridge you never tasted. The belt around your waist is not decorative. It holds nothing but the day in place. You adjust it out of habit, though it doesn't need adjusting. It is the one thing that never moves. You pass another servant in the corridor, older, slower, bent at the waist with a bundle of linens in her arms. She nods once, lips pressed into a line that isn't quite a smile. You return the gesture. Neither of you stops. Time does not wait in this house. It folds over itself, hour into hour, cloth into cloth, name into absence. You descend the stairs again, careful not to slip. The tray in the hall is empty now. Bowls scraped, bread gone, spoons scattered. You collect them quietly, stacking them by size, balancing their weight against your hip as you return to the kitchen. The fire has died down again. It always does. You place the tray near the basin. The water is cold. It always is. And somewhere upstairs, silk rustles again. A brooch is admired in the mirror. A sandal clicks against the floor. You touch your own sleeve, coarse, damp, colorless. You smooth it once, gently. The fabric resists your fingers, stiff with memory. You straighten it anyway. Not because it matters, but because you do it every day. And the cloth, like your hands, has learned not to hope for better, only to endure. The fabric still clings to your skin, damp at the hem, stiff at the seams, though the morning has long since passed. The rooms upstairs have emptied. The mist from the porridge bowls has vanished into walls that remember everything. You are outside now, finally, but not freely. The sunlight touches your shoulders like something accidental, not a gift, not even an oversight, just a passing warmth that couldn't quite avoid you. The basket digs into your forearm. Its weave is old, a little warped on one side where it was once set too close to the fire. The handle bites at the bend in your elbow, not sharply, but constantly. The way dust scratches your throat, the way hunger sits in your side when you bend too long. It's not pain. It's the kind of presence that becomes you. There are coins inside, not many, never enough, wrapped in a cloth that was once white, but now carries the quiet stains of oil and meat and someone else's fortune. You don't touch them. You don't count them. You've been given the list and the weight of what's expected. You are not the one who decides. You are only the one who must not disappoint. The market is not far, but your legs are already heavy, your sandals worn thin at the heels, where the stones press hardest. The ground is dry today, cracked and uneven, scattered with straw and dirt and the soft dust of animals that passed before you. You know each stone, each rut. You walk slightly to the left along the wall, where the sun does not glare quite as much, and where the cracks in the mortar can offer your feet a rhythm. Left, right, shift, bend, rise again. Children run past you at one point, laughing, their sandals slapping against the stone with the sound of lives that do not belong to yours. One of them brushes your side without meaning to. A smear of fruit on his sleeve stains the edge of your tunic. You do not stop. You do not look down. The stain will remain until it fades on its own. You pass the fountain where the women gather, their voices echoing softly off the stone, layered over the splash of water, the rustle of linen, the sudden bark of a dog who does not care to wait. You hear bits of things, arguments over prices, stories retold with too much laughter, the soft complaints of someone whose sandals don't fit quite right. Their words drift through you like mist through branches. You are not a part of the sound. You are only something it passes through, The market opens in front of you not like a destination, but like a reminder. Stalls pressed close together, cloth canopies faded to uneven shades, corners curled with sun. The smell hits first, strong, briny, layered with sweetness that's gone slightly sour. Fish, bread, herbs, oil, a pot of something warm, a cluster of bees around a fig that split open in the heat. You do not wrinkle your nose. You inhale gently, slowly, as if the air might feed you just a little if you ask nicely. You approach the first stall. The man doesn't greet you. He's speaking to someone else, louder, fuller, eyes wide with exaggeration. He gestures broadly, then glances at you, not quite meeting your gaze, and sets down the scale with a motion that tells you to wait. You do. When your turn comes, there is no exchange of words. Just weight and nods and coins, passed quickly, with the indifference of someone who knows you will not challenge the cost. You receive the measure of grain wrapped in paper too thin to last the walk back. You tuck it into the basket, adjusting it so it won't crush the bread that must come next. You move stall to stall, each exchange the same, a transaction not of voices, but of roles. You are the hands that carry. They are the eyes that do not need to look directly. You count the purchases as you go, not aloud, not even in your mind. The count lives somewhere behind your ribs, between heartbeats. You do not forget. Forgetting has its consequences. There are moments when you pause, not for rest, there is none, but for space. In front of a stall with ripening pears, you hesitate. Not because you will buy one, you will not, but because one of them has fallen to the ground, its skin split, seeds exposed, flies gathering as if called by name. You watch them circle and settle. The fruit will rot here. It will be discarded. You will remember the smell. A boy calls out near the olives, not to you, but to a girl with her hair tied in gold ribbon. He throws something small. It lands at her feet. She laughs. You do not look at them, but you remember the ribbon, how it caught the sun just once before disappearing behind the awning. You pass the butcher's stall last, always last. The smell is thick, full of metal and salt, hanging low to the ground like fog. You do not flinch. You do not gag. But your stomach tightens in that familiar way. Not hunger exactly, but the ache of proximity to something you'll never have. The butcher wraps your cut in parchment, folds it twice, hands it over with fingers that never touch yours. You slide it into the basket, already staining the cloth beneath. The weight is different now. You shift your grip to the other arm. The handle has left a dent in your skin, a pale half circle that burns slightly when touched. You do not touch it. You begin the walk home. The road is busier now. People move in pairs, in clusters, rarely alone. You step aside often, letting them pass, never drawing notice. A cart brushes too close at one corner. A wheel catches a stone. You feel the vibration through the ground and into your heel. The sound is too sharp, too sudden. It echoes longer than it should. You pass the well. Someone is drawing water. A girl younger than you. Her hair is bound with cloth that matches the apron tied around her waist. She smiles at someone behind you. The smile does not reach you. It never does. Your sandals drag a little now. You force your steps into rhythm, not for elegance, but because uneven steps make the load shift, and shifting causes spills, and spills cause shame. You will not be shamed today. Not again. At the corner near the villa wall, you pause, just long enough to adjust the basket once more, to roll your shoulder, to let your eyes rest on the chipped stone where moss has begun to grow again. Soft, green, stubborn. Then you are walking again. Past the goat tied near the entrance, chewing something it should not. Past the worn mat by the door, flattened from decades of being stepped on. Past the doorway that groans when opened, not loudly, but enough to be noticed by those who have reason to listen. You enter without knocking. You never knock. The kitchen is quiet again, the fire low, the air heavy with the scent of things that came before you, and things you will now prepare. You set the basket down, the cut of meat first, then the grain, then the bread. You remove each item with the same care you carried them with, as though they might shatter or vanish or accuse. You sit for a moment. Just one. On the edge of the stone near the hearth, where your breath no longer fogs. You touch the mark on your arm where the basket bit you. It is already fading. The sting remains. And somewhere far away, through the window, past the walls, beneath the sky, a bell rings. Not for you, but you hear it anyway. A soft, distant sound, the kind that knows exactly who it's for, and who it isn't. The sting on your forearm has faded, but the memory remains. Not sharp, not painful, just an echo beneath the skin. You trace your hand lightly along the mark as you rise again from the stone by the hearth, fingers dry and tired, movements without urgency. The basket is empty now, the morning gone. The light through the small kitchen window has shifted, warmer in hue, but no closer. It never reaches the floor where you stand. There is no instruction. There rarely is. You are not summoned, not spoken to. The day moves without announcement. You are simply folded into it, carried along like dust beneath a cloak, swept and drifting, never seen, but always there. The tasks arrive not with orders, but with their own quiet gravity. A stool knocked askew, a jug with its mouth crusted in oil, the threadbare curtain bunched in the corner like it forgot how to hang. You begin not from intention, but from motion. You lift the jug first, the one near the pantry door, its base sticky with old drippings, its handle worn smooth from generations of hands like yours. You wipe it slowly, pressing the rag into the grooves where the clay has darkened with age. The scent of oil clings to your fingertips. You do not wash it off. There's no time. There's no soap. There's no reason. Near the threshold, the bronze lamp is soot-smudged again. The wick inside was never trimmed properly. You scrape at it with a sliver of wood, clearing the crust, reshaping it gently, so it may burn evenly tonight. You do not light it. It is not your place. You only make it ready. The broom in the corner leans, as though bored. You take it up with both hands and begin to sweep the inner room, the one between the dining chamber and the hall. It's never clear whether this space belongs to anyone at all. It collects crumbs from both directions. You gather them into a tidy pile, then another, then another. You always find more dust than you expect, always more than you left. Under the couches, the reed mats fray quietly. You pull one back just enough to shake it. A dead beetle tumbles out. A twist of thread. A fingernail. The motions repeat. Sweep, lift, kneel, twist, press, return. Until you no longer know what time it is. Only that the shadows have moved slightly, and your back has begun its slow descent into ache again. You move to the bench by the window, where the cushions have sagged. You fluff them with your fists, soft thumps into worn wool that has long forgotten its shape. A feather escapes and floats upward, weightless, lazy. You watch it hover, spiraling in the column of warm air that rises from the sun-warmed wall. It lands on the edge of your foot and stays there, still as breath. Beyond the shutters, someone shouts, a vendor or a neighbor or a child. You do not turn to look. Their lives pass beside yours like shadows on a cloth, flickering, overlapping, never touching. A tray waits in the corridor, stained with something sweet, half-dried. You carry it to the basin, the remnants sticky on your fingers. You wash it without looking, your eyes on the tiny chip along the rim that seems to grow each week. You wonder how many more cracks it can hold before it stops being useful. The tray, not you. Behind the storeroom curtain, the amphorae lean in crooked rows. One has tipped slightly, not fallen, just shifted. You crouch beside it, lift gently by the neck, straighten it among the others. The dust around it is thick. You run your hand along the ground, leaving a trail like a scar. You wipe your fingers on the inside of your tunic. In the atrium, the mosaic tiles are dulled by grit. You fetch the cloth again, this time soaked from the bucket near the outer wall. You drag it slowly across the floor, inch by inch, corner to corner, lifting each pebble of color back into memory. Your knees press into the wet stone, the chill creeping upward. You do not rise until the rag has turned gray. There are no thanks. There never are. A breeze filters through the colonnade. It brings in a leaf, dry, curled, too light to be noticed by anyone else. You pick it up and hold it for a moment before pressing it into the small fire basin by the door. It crumbles too quickly, vanishes without scent. The villa hums around you. Not loudly, not clearly. A soft cough behind a wall. A spoon clinking in the distance. The creak of a sandal on the stairs. The sigh of a bench settling beneath someone who has never knelt. You move again. You always move again. The laundry pile is not where it should be. Someone has added to it without folding. You sort the tunics. Finer ones, coarser ones. Those meant for show. Those meant for wear. You shake each gently, brushing off dust with one hand while smoothing seams with the other. You press them onto the shelf with care. Not reverence, just muscle memory. The rag in your pocket is used once more to polish the bronze dish left on the table. It's smudged with fingerprints that do not belong to you. You rub in circles, slow and steady, watching your reflection blur and reappear, like something trying to be seen but not quite managing. Someone sneezes above you. The sound is short, sharp. You pause. Wait. Listen. Nothing follows. You return to your rhythm. In the outer room, the rugs are dusty again. You roll one back slowly, inch by inch, and carry it out through the side door, over your shoulder, its weight familiar, scratchy against your neck. You lay it across the stones and begin to beat it with the stick you keep behind the doorway. Each thud is hollow, rhythmic, soft with age. A cloud of dust rises, golden in the light. You watch it drift, shimmering like something holy, then fading into nothing. You lean the rug against the wall. Let the wind do the rest. You return inside. Someone has moved a stool out of line. You set it straight. Someone left crumbs beneath the couch. You sweep them. Someone brushed past the wall and smeared it with whatever they were carrying. You take the cloth and rub it clean. These are not tasks with names. They do not live in memory. They are not written on lists or spoken aloud. They are the glue between the moments that others think matter. They are the pauses between decisions, the breath between commands. They are what you do because they must be done. And you do them not with pride, not with resentment, but with the slow, resigned familiarity of someone who no longer questions the passage of dust or time. Later, as the day tilts toward its quieter hours, you carry the rag back to its hook, shake out the crumbs from the cloth, fold it slowly, hang it to dry. Your hands are rough again. Your back hums with its usual ache. There is dirt beneath your fingernails, pressed into the corners. It will not leave until the next washing. Maybe not even then. You rest one hand against the wall, cool and solid, the plaster uneven beneath your palm. You do not lean on it. You only acknowledge it. And behind the wall, or beneath the floor, or somewhere just beyond the edge of sound, a rat scratches once, soft and determined, chasing something it will never catch. You hear it. You breathe in. You move again. You move again. Not because anyone calls you, not because a task remains undone, though surely there are always more, but because stillness draws attention, and attention is a thing you avoid like fire too large to control. So you move, not toward a duty, not toward anything at all, really, but into the soft space between things. The hour when the air has thickened with heat and the household slips into something quieter. Not restful, never that, but slowed, like breath held just below the surface. Your feet know where to take you before you've decided. The floor is warm under your soles, worn smooth in the places where others tread, but still cool at the edges, where the stone remains untouched, the margins of every room, the borderlands of motion. You pass through the atrium, its fountain sighing gently to itself, the water never full, never still. You do not stop to tend it. Not now. You slip down the narrow hallway that leads behind the master's chamber, past the alcove where no one sits, and toward the passageway that opens, not into a room, but into absence. It is here, between rooms, beneath a fading fresco, that the wall bows slightly, just enough to cradle your shoulder when you lean against it. And so you do, just for a moment. The villa is full of corners like this, not meant for you, not meant for anyone really. Accidental places where light forgets to fall and no one thinks to sweep. You have found them all, over time, by accident, by instinct, not as hiding places, not quite, but as pauses, breathings, a second's worth of belonging in a life where even your shadow must keep moving. You shift to the side, sliding down the wall until you are crouched low, knees drawn in, elbows resting on thighs that no longer protest. The stone at your back is cool, gritty. A spider thread brushes the top of your shoulder, but you don't pull away. It trembles with your breath, then settles again. No one comes here. Not often. You are safe, in the way that slaves are never truly safe, only unnoticed. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, just to stop seeing. The world behind your lids is no darker than the world around you, but it is softer, quieter. The colors here do not demand anything from you. Somewhere down the hall, a stool scrapes, wood on stone, someone moving, someone sighing. Then silence again. You press your cheek against your knees and listen, not for meaning, but for presence. The villa is not empty, but it is not full either. It is the kind of silence that grows thick between the walls, collecting in corners like cobwebs, old and heavy and soft. This corner is near the courtyard, where the fig tree leans into the sun. You cannot see it from here, but you can hear the rustle of its leaves, slow, dry, half-hearted in the heat. A lizard shifts beneath the stones nearby. You do not look for it. You feel its weight only in the sound it leaves behind. A beam of light stretches across the floor just beyond your feet. It shifts slowly, climbing the far wall, marking the passage of time not in minutes, but in motion. You know how long you have before it touches the base of the archway. That's when footsteps usually return, when duties remember you again. You stand, slowly, pressing your hand against the wall for balance. Your knees ache. Your back cracks once, quietly. You do not sigh. You do not speak. You simply return to your feet, fold yourself back into function. You drift toward another corner, the one behind the servants' chamber, near the water jars. It smells faintly of damp cloth and aging plaster. There is a bench here, too narrow to sit comfortably, too wide to ignore. You run your fingers along its edge, tracing the splinters. Someone carved something there once. A name, maybe. Or not a name. Just a shape, a reminder. You do not recognize it, but you leave it be. You sit again, just for a breath. The air is different here, cooler, touched by the dampness that seeps in through the ground. You curl your toes inward. A moth flutters past your shoulder. It lands on the wall and folds its wings like a secret. There's another corner in the storeroom, darker, narrower, pressed between crates of cloth and sacks of lentils. It smells of dust and oil, and something sweeter that you can never quite name. You found it once by accident, when a jar rolled from a shelf and cracked at your feet. You cleaned it, of course. You always clean it. But afterward, you stayed for a moment longer, sitting on the upturned basket, where no one would see your feet beneath the curtain. You think of that now, as your fingers trail along the rim of the doorway. That curtain has been mended since, by someone else, or by you. You don't remember. The patch was stitched crookedly, and it flutters differently in the breeze now. You watch it move. It reminds you of something, but the memory will not form. Back through the hallway, another pause, this time near the bath chamber, where the floor dips slightly and the wall is always warm, even when the fire isn't lit. You press your palm against the stone and feel its heat, stored there from long ago, like a kindness that no longer knows who it was meant for. Your shoulder sinks into the plaster. You stay like that, eyes open, watching the dust float through the light that spills from the high window. The particles dance slowly, suspended, each one a tiny sun of its own, drifting without purpose, but never quite still. You breathe in through your nose, slowly. The air tastes faintly of ash and lye and something floral. Maybe soap, maybe memory. From somewhere deeper in the house, a door shuts. Firmly, but not with anger. You don't flinch. You've learned which sounds are for you and which are not. That one is not. There is a corner near the entrance, too, behind the heavy curtain that hides the back of the column. You stood there once during a storm, the fabric wet and cold against your cheek, the sound of thunder echoing through the villa like footsteps from the sky. You weren't afraid, not of the storm, but of being found doing nothing. That fear never leaves. It only sits, patient, in the space behind your ribs, waiting for your breath to falter. You return to the kitchen briefly, just to be seen. You sweep a corner that doesn't need sweeping. You wipe your hands on a cloth that's already clean. You glance at the fire. You nod at the goat through the open shutter. She watches you, eyes half-lidded, as if she knows how little your gestures matter. You nod again anyway. Then you slip into one more corner, the one behind the staircase, where the air is cool and smells of stone and time. You sit on the bottom step, not entirely hidden, but not entirely visible. The step is smooth from use, slightly concave. Your body fits into it without thought. You pull your knees up again, let your hands rest on your ankles. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to listen. The villa breathes around you. The house has lungs, not made of flesh, but of plaster and tile and air that moves only when it is not asked to. You are still, just for now. And somewhere beneath the floor, the rat shifts again, as it always does. The same soft scrape, the same sound of something small and quiet, making its way through a world not built for it. You hear it, you understand, and the dust settles softly on your shoulders once more. The dust is still clinging to your shoulders when you rise from the stair's worn edge. It does not fall so much as it waits. Even the particles have learned to settle slowly here, to hold themselves mid-air until breath passes through them. You brush your arm lightly across your tunic, not to clean, not to look presentable, only to remind yourself where your body ends and the air begins. The boundary has felt uncertain lately. Somewhere above, a voice calls out, not loud, not urgent, just firm and distant, shaped by the clipped cadence that belongs to those who've never had to earn their breath. The sound filters down through the stone, slipping between the beams like water through fingers. You don't catch every word, you never do. But that isn't the same as not understanding. You step softly across the threshold, back into the villa's bloodstream, where your movements must resume their rhythm. You pass a doorway half closed, and from behind it, a laugh, bright, careless, sharp at the end, like a snapped twig. The words that follow are quick, curling, Roman in shape, Latin. You don't speak it. Not really. Not in the way they do. But it lives in your skin now, coiled behind your ears, tucked beneath your ribs. It belongs to you in a way that language is not supposed to belong to people like you. You didn't mean to learn it. It just happened. You listened. And listened again. In kitchens, in corridors, behind closed doors when you were sweeping and they thought you were too far down to hear. You watched their mouths form words, and your own tongue mirrored them in silence. You gave names to the sounds, not as lessons, but as shapes of survival. What does it mean when the master clears his throat a certain way? When the mistress repeats a word twice, but with different music in her voice? When the boy sighs, not because he's tired, but because he's been caught? There are words you know that you have never said. Words with weight, with heat, with warning. Words that mean you should leave a room before you are asked to. Words that tell you who is favored today and who will suffer by nightfall. You've built a small country in your mind out of these scraps. A crooked house made from syllables you weren't invited to understand. And yet you do. You pass the doorway to the study. Voices inside. Two men, older, one with the thick accent of the provinces, his consonants rough like gravel, the other smoother, bored, too comfortable in his own tongue. They speak quickly, and you slow as you pass, just slightly, just enough. They are talking about shipments, delays. One of them mentions a name you've heard before, a merchant who visits with heavy rings and the smell of foreign spice. You remember how he looked at the younger girl who serves wine. You remember she didn't return for 2 days. You move on. In the hall near the garden wall, a cluster of women talk while folding linens. You keep to the shadows, brushing past the curtain. Their words drift toward you, tangled in the smell of rosemary and soap. They gossip without lowering their voices, assuming your silence is ignorance. You hear the tone shift. One name spoken with affection, another with envy. You learn who broke a dish and blamed it on a slave boy from the stables. You learn who wept after the evening meal. You tuck these things away. You do not need them. Not yet. But you will. Sometimes you repeat the words to yourself at night. Not aloud. Just in the back of your throat. You mouth them as you lie curled on the mat, the rough fabric of your blanket pressed against your lips. You don't know what your own language sounds like anymore. Not really. Not clearly. It's a blur now. A melody without lyrics. A drumbeat too faint to follow. But Latin, this other tongue, it fits in your mouth like a stone that's been there long enough to smooth. And yet, when you do speak, it is only what is required. Yes. Number I will. I understand. You do not show what else you know. Knowledge is not safety. Knowledge is a blade they might not expect you to have, but will punish you for carrying. There was a time once, you remember it, dimly, when a younger boy, new to the house, tried to speak it too early. He mimicked a phrase the master used when amused. It was meant as a joke. But the silence that followed was colder than anything you felt since. They beat him, not for insolence, but for fluency. You learned then. You do not echo what they say. You do not let them know you understand. Still, the words gather inside you. Some days they crowd your mouth, pressing at the back of your teeth like hunger. You long to say them aloud, just once, to hear your own voice carry meaning instead of obedience. But even in your thoughts, you keep your sentences short, clipped, safer. You find yourself assigning names to things that have none, calling the broken tile near the stairs fracta, the place under the eaves where the goat sometimes sleeps umbra, the corner behind the column where you pause to breathe silentium. You shape your world with borrowed words. You make it yours in secret. Later, as you carry a tray into the main room, the older son calls out a phrase you've heard before. His tone is sharp, expectant. You freeze for just a moment too long. Not because you don't understand, you do, but because you are tired of pretending you don't. The pause betrays you. His brow furrows, and he stares a beat too long. You lower your eyes. You bow slightly. You say yes, not in Latin, not in your tongue, but in the space between them, a breath that sounds like submission. He says nothing. He turns away. You do not sigh. You keep walking. In the storeroom later, as you stack amphorae, you whisper the word loquor, I speak, into the crook of your arm. You don't know why. It feels dangerous and delicious at once, like a stolen fig, like rain in summer. You repeat it once more, softer this time, like a secret you're not sure you're allowed to keep. By nightfall, the household is quiet again. The lamps glow faint and low. You press your back against the longhouse wall, legs stretched out, fingers idly tracing the dirt. A girl near you mutters in her sleep, a name you do not know. Someone coughs. The rat beneath the boards shifts as it always does, its claws clicking faintly like the punctuation of an unwritten sentence. You mouth a word into the dark. You don't even choose it. It just arrives, quiet, shapeless, from somewhere between memory and mouth. And the air carries it nowhere. But you hear it, and you know it was yours. You are not meant to be seen. The hours pass like mist through your body, and you move through them not as a person, but as function. A motion repeated, a shape blurred at the edges, a breath that begins and ends in silence. You serve, you sweep, you pass from room to room, leaving no trail behind. And most days, this is a mercy. But not always. There are moments, rare and slow as dripping honey, when someone looks at you, not with cruelty, not with kindness, but with attention. And that is something else entirely. It begins, as most things do, in the quiet between tasks. The tray is already placed on the table. The curtain has been drawn. The floor is swept. The lamp trimmed. There is nothing left but to step backward and disappear again, into the corner, into the threshold, into the space just beside knowing. But then his eyes shift. The master, not from his seat, not with a gesture, not even with voice, simply looks, briefly, sharply, as though in that moment you are not a tool, but something he has just remembered is alive. You feel it before you understand it. The pressure of a gaze that lands on your chest and does not move. It slides into your ribs. It curls beneath your chin. It lifts the hairs on your arms though no wind has passed. He speaks your name, and not in the way a person greets or summons or corrects. He says it flatly. A test. A stone dropped into water to watch how the ripples behave. Your spine straightens, though it was never crooked. You nod, though he has not yet asked anything. You step forward, not out of eagerness, but because stillness would mean challenge, and movement means survival. He gives you a task. Not difficult, not strange, but different, unusual. It involves responsibility, minor, yes, but yours alone, for now. He tells you to fetch something, to deliver it, to bring it directly, to ensure it arrives. He does not explain why. He does not tell you what it means. You nod again. You accept it. Your lips form a word, but it is not yours. It belongs to the air between you. When the master notices, your world tilts just slightly, enough to spill the comfort of being invisible, enough to let the light touch the part of you that had been allowed to sleep. And now it is awake again, blinking slowly in the heat. The item he's requested is in the upper chamber, a room you've entered only once before, and even then with another's shadow stretched beside you. You take the steps slowly, not because they are steep, but because the moment is heavy and must be carried carefully. Each footfall is quiet, deliberate. The hem of your tunic brushes the stone with a sound that feels louder than it should. You hear yourself breathing. You wish you didn't. The chamber door is open, but just barely. You slip through it like breath beneath a doorframe. Inside, it smells of wood polish and parchment, and something older. The musk of leather, of heat, of things that wait too long to be used. The scroll is there, resting on the table, its edge already unfurling as if it, too, resents being ignored. You pick it up with both hands, cradling it not because it is precious, but because the weight of being tasked with anything that matters is already pressing into your palms. You step back into the hallway. The sun has shifted again, casting a long shadow through the open window. The light lands on your foot, and then, as you move, it leaves you again. You do not know why this feels like a sign. At the base of the stairs, you pause. A servant passes behind you, a man older than most, his eyes narrowed. He doesn't speak. He only watches your hands, notes the scroll, then disappears without turning his head. You wonder what he will say when you are gone. You wonder if he will say anything at all. Back in the main room, the master is waiting, not standing, not impatient, but present. And that is enough. You step forward. You place the scroll in his hand. Your fingers do not tremble, not where he can see. He glances at it, then at you, just for a moment. Then he nods, and nothing else. You are dismissed, though no words say so. You step back. You bow your head. You turn. But something has changed now, and you feel it in your spine. That long, quiet mark of awareness. He knows your name. He knows your shape. You will be given more. You will be asked more. And none of it will belong to you. Later, in the storeroom, you sit on the edge of the crate where the grain is kept. You are alone. Your hands are resting on your knees. And you say your name again, quietly, into the space between barrels. It sounds different now. Not like a thing that protects you, more like a thing that might be used. You think of the other times it has happened, long ago, less sharp. A question asked directly, a command issued without shouting. The memory of being visible always comes with the aftertaste of pressure. You remember what came next. You always remember what comes next. Because when the master notices, it is not a blessing. It is a weight. It is a mark drawn in silence. It is a reminder that you are never yours. Even now your name sits in the corner of his thoughts like a blade left on a table, not forgotten but unused. For now. You close your eyes. You breathe. Outside the storeroom, someone passes. Their sandals make a soft pat-pat on the floor. They do not stop. They do not call for you. The moment passes. You remain seated just a little longer. The scroll is no longer in your hands, but the feeling of it lingers. The dry smoothness of the parchment, the tightness in your wrist where you had held it too long. You know now that you will not be allowed to disappear again. Not entirely. And somewhere beneath the villa, the rat stirs. The same one, always. Scratching faintly at the wood, its body brushing against stone with a whisper that sounds almost like your name. The scroll has long since left your hands, and the master's eyes have turned elsewhere. Still, the feeling lingers. A weight behind the chest, not heavy, but constant, like a pebble caught in the fold of your clothing, pressing gently into your skin with each step. You do not try to remove it. You simply walk differently now, as though this pressure has always been there. And perhaps it has. You return to the kitchen, not because anyone calls, but because the rhythm draws you back, the way a stream carries leaves downstream, not out of force, but because the flow has never known how to stop. The fire is low now. The busy part of the day has quieted. Dishes have been cleared, bowls stacked. The scent of meat and oil still lingers in the corners of the room, hanging in the air like smoke that no longer rises. You let it wrap around you as you move toward the back, near the storeroom, where the warmth barely reaches and where the space between hunger and permission has always been narrow. There is a pot, still warm, not hot, not full, just enough left to scrape the bottom, to drag the spoon through the grain where it has thickened and clung to the curve of the clay. A few pieces of vegetable, wilted and soft, rest near the side, half buried. You do not look at them too long. Looking makes it worse. You check the room. One glance. Quick. The boy who sweeps is gone. The woman who cuts herbs has stepped out to the yard. Someone hums in the next room, tuneless, fading. No one speaks. No one sees. So you sit, not on a stool, not at the table, but on the stone ledge near the hearth, where the soot has darkened the wall and the air smells faintly of ash and bread. You hold the bowl in both hands, cupping it as though it might warm you. It doesn't, but the shape is familiar, and sometimes that's enough. You eat slowly, not because you savor it, but because rushing makes your stomach twist. You learned that years ago. Too fast, and the ache returns sharper, like hunger's final insult. So you pause between mouthfuls, letting the lukewarm paste settle. You chew not for taste, there is none, but for rhythm. It is not much, it is never much. And still, it is more than some get. The bread is stale, hard at the edges, soft in the middle where someone else's teeth didn't reach. You dip it into the grain, press it down until it softens, then lift it carefully, not wasting even the drips that fall from the corner. You hold them with your thumb. You lick the corner clean. Somewhere outside, the goat bleats once, then falls silent again. The sun through the upper window shifts. A patch of light lands near your foot, pale and dusty, and you pull your leg slightly away, as if even this warmth is not meant for you. You remember other meals, not because they were different, but because they were not. The same coarse bread, the same lentils, thin and watery, or beans boiled until they forget what they were. Once, there was meat, just a shred, caught in your teeth like a secret. You didn't tell anyone. You chewed slowly, kept it in your cheek as long as you could, then swallowed without ceremony. It tasted of nothing, but it was yours. Today's bowl empties before your stomach fills. You know better than to scrape the bottom too hard. The sound carries. The scrape of wood against clay, the language of the desperate. So you stop just before. You leave a smear in the curve of the bowl. You wipe your finger across it, discreetly. You press it to your lips. You set the bowl down, then pick it up again. The instinct to hold something, anything, is stronger than the instinct to rest. You feel the heat leaching away from it. You hold it anyway. You always do. A cough sounds from the outer room, short, dry, followed by footsteps. Not hurried, not searching, but footsteps still. You rise. Quietly. You rinse the bowl in the basin, quick, gentle swirls, your fingers wrinkled from yesterday's washing. You place it back on the shelf, upside down, still wet. You wipe your hands on your tunic, then look at the mark it leaves. You don't mind. The fabric is already stained. There is no time to linger. There never is. The meal was not an event. It was a pause, and the pause has ended. You return to motion. Later, at the washing line, your stomach curls again. Not from fullness, from the memory of having eaten just enough to remember that you are still hungry. You hold the sheet tighter between your hands, wringing it with more force than necessary. Water splashes across your foot. You do not flinch. The sun is dipping lower now, shadows stretching long and slow across the stones. The scent of garlic rises from the main room. Another meal, not yours. The kind served with meat, with herbs, with laughter between courses. You will clean the platters after. You will touch the edges still slick with oil. You will scrape the crumbs from beneath the table, fingers catching on the curve of dropped fruit. But that comes later. Now, you carry the memory of your own meal like something tucked in your sleeve. Not a treasure. Not quite. Just a moment of stillness. A flavorless breath. As you move through the corridor, a child runs past, half-dressed, olive pit in his hand. He drops it near your feet. You stoop, pick it up, place it on the edge of the fountain without thinking. The pit is warm. Your fingers remember the shape. In the servants' quarter, someone is whispering. Not to you, not about you, but near enough that their voice touches your skin like wind through linen. You don't ask. You don't join. You press on. And when you finally return to the mat at the end of the day, your stomach speaks again. A small, hollow sound that no one else hears. You curl on your side, knees drawn in, arms wrapped across your middle. You are not starving, but you are not full. You are something in between, like always. And somewhere below the floor, the rat drags something small and brittle into its corner, a crust of something perhaps, or a seed, and chews it slowly, not because it is delicious, but because it has nothing else. You understand. You listen. You breathe. The air outside is cooler now, and you can feel it press against your skin, damp from the work inside. The space between the kitchen and the garden is a narrow one, a strip of ground, uneven, with patches of rough stone and dry earth, littered with clumps of weeds that refuse to be pulled. You don't mind them. They make things seem more like they belong to the earth, to time. There is always something in the garden to do. But today, it is not your garden. It never has been. The soft, careful murmur of voices reaches you as you step closer to the stone wall that edges the space. The flowers have been pruned, the soil turned over. Someone else's work, someone else's hands. But the garden is yours for the moment. The soil, the leaves, the smell of damp earth after a light rain. They are for you, but only for as long as no one else notices. Only for as long as you move like a shadow. A soft breeze shifts through the leaves, rustling them in a low, lazy whisper. The vine has grown too thick in the corner. You should have cut it back weeks ago. You didn't. It's not important. Not to you. To the others, yes, but not to you. And yet you stand here, breathing in the quiet, the stillness of something that isn't yours but always feels like it could be. You kneel down, fingers brushing against the ground, feeling for the edges of the plants, the roots hidden beneath the earth. The garden holds secrets in its soil, a half-forgotten history, bits of bone, stray seeds, the memories of those who have worked it before you. The scent of the plants that bloomed last season still clings to the leaves, faint and fading. It doesn't matter that the flowers are gone. You can still smell them. You touch the plants, your fingers tracing over the leaves, their texture, the edges curled from the heat of the sun that beats down during the day. It's cool now, but the weight of the day's heat still lingers, pressing the air against your skin like a memory you can't forget. You dig your fingers into the soft soil. It feels good, that familiar sensation. Your hands making the earth shift, pulling it apart, smoothing the edges of the spaces where the roots live. It is not your garden, but for a moment, it is. The sound of footsteps approaches, heavy, deliberate. You pause, fingers frozen in the soil. You don't look up, but you know the rhythm of the footfalls, the way they fall against the ground, too loud for the moment, too certain for silence. The slave who is supposed to watch the garden is coming. His presence fills the space like an echo. The moment is over. You rise slowly, brushing dirt from your hands, dusting your tunic with slow motions. The light between the leaves shifts, and the shadow of the vine stretches across the ground, pooling at your feet. You stand there, waiting. There's nothing to say. There never is. But the silence holds a kind of weight, a kind of truth. You know what you've done, and they know too, even if they don't speak of it. The slave glances at you, just a flicker of movement from the corner of your vision. His hands are full, a bundle of freshly picked herbs and vegetables that you'll never taste. But his eyes don't linger. He looks away, turning back toward the path that leads away from the garden. You remain. You wait. In the silence, the scent of crushed leaves rises again, faint but present, as if the earth itself remembers the moment. You breathe it in, slow, and let the air settle in your chest. It is a small thing. It doesn't matter, but it does. It's quiet in the garden now. Too quiet. The distant voices have gone, swallowed by the house. There is nothing now but the steady hum of your breath and the rustle of the leaves in the cool evening air, the smell of earth, the sharp bite of the herbs you've touched, the slow pull of time moving past you, moving through you. You move again, carefully, slowly, to the edge of the garden, to where the stone wall meets the low fence. The gate is just there, just at the corner. You push it open gently, and the creak of the wood fills the air. You can feel it. The garden is behind you. The space where the flowers bloomed, where the vines crawled toward the sky, where the herbs spread in quiet patterns. That space is no longer yours. Not now. You cross the threshold, your foot falling onto the dirt path that leads back to the house. The gate clicks shut behind you. The garden is still there, just beyond the stone wall, just out of reach. But the moment has passed. The coolness of the air presses against you again, as if the evening is too aware of your movement, too aware of the space you've just left. You walk back toward the house. You hear the quiet hum of voices from within, muffled by the walls, the distance. The sounds of life, of people living, of lives unfolding. And you wonder, as you walk, if they ever notice, if they ever see the moment you've stolen, the moment when the garden was yours. And then the thought is gone, fading with each step you take. It drifts away, like the last of the daylight slipping beneath the horizon. Inside, the noise rises again. Voices, movement, but it doesn't touch you. Not yet. You press your back against the wall just inside the door, a moment of stillness before you enter the noise, a moment before the house swallows you again. You listen to the hum of life, to the murmurs, to the sounds of footsteps. It's just another day, just another night. But there was the garden, and for a moment, it was yours. The garden slips behind you like a breath held too long, a quiet thing, half remembered, earth under your nails and silence under your ribs. You do not turn back, not because you don't want to, but because the day does not allow turning. It only moves forward, gently, mercilessly, until it folds you into the walls again. Inside, the air feels different, not colder, but closer, like everything has sunk lower, grown heavier with the settling dust. The corridors hum with the soft clatter of dishes being rinsed, linen being pulled straight. Tools return to their places by hands that remember without needing to think. The day has dipped now into its stiller hours, when the sharpness fades and things are done with the soft edges of tiredness. And this is when they come, the others, not the ones who command, who demand, who bark and expect, but the ones who work beside you, the ones who see without saying, who pass you a cloth before you've asked, who know what it means when you press your thumb into your wrist and glance toward the storeroom. You move through the hallway that leads to the back steps, the worn ones, where the stone has curled under generations of sandals. There, in the bend, where no one from the house bothers to go, the voices begin. Low at first, always low. A breath louder than silence, a syllable that curls into the air and waits to see who else will claim it. You sit, not at the edge, not in the center, just somewhere in the space where your body fits and your weight won't shift the moment too much. It's always the same ones. The girl with the quick fingers who always ties her hair twice. The man who limps only when he thinks no one watches. The old woman who no longer does much but has a memory sharp as thorns and a voice that can still cut. There are more sometimes, fewer others, but enough. The first voice murmurs something soft, a comment, not a complaint. A story not told fully, just hinted at. You listen. You always listen. You do not speak yet. You never begin. Another voice joins. A chuckle too quiet to be joy, too dry to be cruel. A name is mentioned. A master's mood described with the care of someone shaping wax in the sun. You catch the edge of it and hold it loosely in your lap, like a thread that might unravel something later. The stories come in pieces. A broken bowl that wasn't blamed on the child who dropped it. A piece of bread taken and replaced with one half the size. A look exchanged too long between the wine bearer and the merchant's son. Nothing important, and everything. These are the pieces that shape the air between your ribs. You do not look directly at the speaker. No one does. The words are not meant to be honored. They are meant to be released. You nod, once. You let the sound wrap around you, settle into the space behind your eyes. And then your name is mentioned. Not with malice, not even with inquiry. Just softly, as a passing thing. The scroll, the master's gaze, the moment you were seen. They noticed. Of course they did. The girl with the tied hair glances at you. Just a flick of her gaze, then gone again. You nod. The story is not yours anymore. It belongs to them now. And somehow, that makes it safer. Someone laughs, just once. Just enough to know the tension has broken. You exhale, slow. The sound is caught by the walls and held gently, then released. There are always things unspoken. That is the real language. Not the Latin you've collected in silence, not the commands that pass from room to room like dust blown beneath a door, but the language of glances, of breath, of the way a body shifts its weight when a master is near. These are the things that keep you alive. They tell stories, yes, but also warnings. You learn who is ill but still working, who was slapped gently behind the curtain near the baths, who left the laundry undone because the mistress forgot it even existed, who kissed who when no one was looking, who cried, who didn't. The stories are always simple, always complicated. Sometimes the old woman hums while someone speaks. It's not a song. It's just a sound, a remembering perhaps, or a soft way of holding space for someone else's voice. Tonight she hums while the boy with the crooked tooth tells of how he dropped a dish and caught it again before it shattered. He didn't mean to brag. He just wanted it to be known that today something did not break. You think of the fig pit you left on the fountain rim. You wonder if it is still there. A whisper reaches you about a slave in the villa down the road. One who ran. One who got away. One who didn't. No one says how it ended. They never do. It's not about the ending. It's about the imagining. Your hands rest on your knees, and you trace the seam of your tunic where the stitching has come undone. You will sew it later. Maybe, maybe not. The thread has held this long. The light fades slowly now. One of the others shifts to stand, stretches their arms, groans softly. Another rises too, brushing crumbs from their lap that weren't there. The moment is ending. It always ends, but never abruptly. Just like this, one body at a time, pulling itself back into motion, into the path that led here, and now leads back. You stand as well. You don't say goodbye. No one does. But before you turn to go, the girl with the tied hair leans closer to the wall and whispers something only you can hear. It's not advice. It's not a warning. Just a word, low and small and meaningless on its own. But it brushes against your chest like a warm hand. You don't respond. You don't need to. You walk back toward the kitchens, or the beds, or the stairs, wherever the next breath of the evening will take you. You feel the story still clinging to your tunic, to your shoulders. The soft echo of shared breath. The weight of being among those who know your name. Not the one the master calls you, but the ones spoken without speaking, in the pauses between sentences, in the way they make space for you on the ledge. And behind you, as the night deepens and the hallways fall back into their hush, the last whisper fades into the air, like dust blown off an old piece of cloth, rising once, catching the light, then disappearing. The whisper still lingers behind your ear, long after the hallway has emptied and the wall has cooled where your shoulder once rested. You carry it like a coal you're not allowed to tend, quiet, glowing, tucked behind your ribs. You return to the still rhythm of evening, your hands doing what hands must do, your feet remembering where they've already been. And then the call comes, not a shout, not even a word, just your name, spoken like a tool being lifted from its place on a shelf. You are sent to the baths. There is no ceremony, no announcement, just a linen towel draped over your arm and a small clay vessel of oil held tightly in your hands. Not because it is precious, but because it cannot be dropped. You know how slippery it becomes when warm. You know how light it feels just before it shatters. You follow behind him, the master. His pace is unhurried, but it is not leisurely either. It is the kind of walk that doesn't notice the stones beneath it. You notice them, every one. The way some are loose, others cracked. The way one near the edge of the path still holds the echo of rainwater from the morning before. The city folds around you slowly. It is not loud yet, not at this hour. The sun has tilted past its highest point, but not enough to bless the shadows with coolness. The heat rises from the walls, from the ground, from the backs of your knees as you walk behind him. The towel grows heavier by the minute, though nothing has changed its weight. You pass people, vendors, children, other slaves. You do not greet them. They do not greet you. You are invisible in a different way now, not because you belong to nothing, but because you belong too clearly to someone else. His tunic is clean, yours is not. That is all anyone needs to know. The baths come into view not with grandeur, but with the sigh of stone that has held centuries of steam. The outer wall is tall, too tall, and yet it does not protect what's inside. You've been here before, not to bathe, not to enter, but to wait, to watch. Inside, the light is strange. It moves sideways through the mist, bouncing off columns and curling around ankles. You step forward, eyes low, your skin already damp before the water touches it. The floor is warm, smooth in places, rough in others. You walk with care, careful not to slip, not to draw attention, not to breathe too deeply the scent of oil, of sweat, of something sweet melting in a dish nearby. You follow him into the changing room. You do not watch. You hand him the towel, the oil. You wait, standing near the wall, behind the bench. Your place is known, even if unmarked. Others enter. Laughter echoes. Not sharp, but round, relaxed. It bounces off the stone and catches in your ears like drops of water. The words are careless, the gestures looser than you're used to seeing. These are men who do not serve. These are men who forget you're standing there, even while taking the oil from your hands. The master walks into the tepidarium, and you follow. The steam hits you like cloth soaked in warmth and pressed against your face. You blink slowly. You do not cough. You've learned not to. You find your place again, near the edge of the room, near the pillar with the chip at its base. The one you remember because last time you were here, a man leaned too hard against it and left a dark handprint that never washed away. He lowers himself onto the bench, and you wait. You are still. You watch the steam rise from the floor. It curls around ankles, wrists, elbows. It clings to the oil slicked across shoulders. A boy is scrubbing another man's back with a strigil. The metal glints through the fog, catching the lamplight like a whisper. You've felt that edge before. Once. Not in comfort, not in care, but in haste, when cleaning was a punishment disguised as duty. The sting across your shoulder remains, in memory, if not in mark. Someone speaks your name. You move forward. Oil is poured into your palm. Warm, slippery, fragrant in a way that is both inviting and distant, like fruit left just out of reach. You rub it between your hands, then apply it to the master's back with soft, slow movements. Not because you wish to soothe him, but because you've learned the rhythm that pleases. Too hard, and he'll grunt. Too soft, and he'll shift. There is a perfect pressure, and you know it now, like you know how to carry a bowl of soup without spilling a drop. The heat grows heavier. Your tunic clings to your spine. Sweat beads along your jaw. You do not wipe it. You do not stop. When you are dismissed, it is not with words, just a flick of the hand, like shooing a fly. You step back. You bow. You move again to your place in the corner, where the stone wall meets the curve of the basin. There is water everywhere, dripping, sloshing, steaming. You listen to it. Not for pleasure, but because it is constant. A language you can't quite understand, but know is speaking all the time. He moves into the caldarium. You follow. Here, the air is thicker. Breathing is an act of will. The scent of sweat has grown stronger, mixed with something metallic. The floor is wet beneath your soles, and the steam rises from the water in ghostly curls. You cannot see his face clearly now, only his outline, made stranger by mist. He speaks with another man. They speak of trade, of taxes, of ships that may or may not arrive. You do not understand it all. You do not need to. You are not here to understand. You are here to stand. And so you do. Time becomes loose, melted. It stretches between drips from the ceiling and echoes across tile. You think you hear your own name once, said by someone else, from another part of the room. But you cannot be sure. It may have been someone like you. It may have been no one at all. Eventually, he rises. You wrap the towel around his shoulders. You take the oil bottle, nearly empty now, and cap it. You do not walk ahead. You do not walk behind. You walk beside, but not close. Just enough to be useful, never enough to be present. Back outside, the air feels cool, though it isn't. The sun has not gone, but it has begun to think about leaving. The shadows are longer. The street sounds sharper. Your clothes cling to your skin. You do not adjust them. At the villa, you do not go inside. Not yet. He steps through the door. You turn. You go to the basin behind the kitchens, the one where no one watches, and pour the last of the water from the jug over your hands. The oil slips from your skin in ribbons. The warmth is gone. The scent remains. You dry your hands on your tunic, and somewhere beyond the wall, a bird sings just once. A strange, clear note that rises through the fading steam of your thoughts, then disappears. It begins with color. Not all at once, and not even in front of you, but carried through the air on the backs of laughter and the flapping of silk garments, barely glimpsed as you pass the inner courtyard with your head bowed and your hands full of things that do not belong to you. You feel the brightness before you see it, the hum beneath the marble, the shift in rhythm. The villa has changed, not its stones or its walls, but its breath. It inhales differently on festival days, slower, deeper, like it knows it will be praised, like it has something to prove. You have less to carry today, and somehow that makes it worse. Your body still aches, your back still bows, but the absence of tools and baskets leaves your arms feeling hollow, a mockery of ease. You are lighter only in burden, not in permission. From behind the colonnade, you hear the sound of wine being poured into polished cups, the soft clink, the murmuring approval, the laughter that folds over itself like cloth shaken out in sunlight. You see nothing, only the shadows of movement through linen curtains and the way the breeze lifts the edges to tease you with golden sandals and trailing hems. feet that have never walked barefoot on cold stone. You are not invited. You are never invited. But you are present, not part of the celebration, but beneath it, holding it up. There is music, of course there is music, and it comes not from a place, but from everywhere at once. Flutes winding around your ribs, the thud of drums muffled by your footsteps, a string plucked just as you set down a platter in the kitchen corridor. It threads through you, unasked, a rhythm you cannot escape and do not dare join. The cooks are louder today, busier, frenzied in that way that is not panic, but a performance of it. They shout because it makes them feel important. You keep your mouth shut because you know better. Your hands move automatically, sorting leaves, cleaning fruit, placing pastries into bowls too fine for your fingers to touch. The smells are overwhelming. Honey, fish, figs, burnt flour, wine-soaked dates. Your stomach curls with want, then flattens again into memory. You will not eat any of this. Not today. Not even the crumbs. The slaves who are allowed to serve, the ones with straighter backs and better faces, are dressed in slightly cleaner tunics. You see one of them steal a sip of wine from a cup before placing it down. No one notices. Or if they do not care. The rules today are soft for some. For you, they remain iron. You carry platters down hallways you are not meant to memorize. Your bare feet move over tiles scrubbed so often they've forgotten their original color. Voices echo off domed ceilings. Names you do not know. Stories you are not part of. Someone sings. It might be a guest. It might be someone like you, paid to pretend joy. Either way, the notes rise like smoke, fragrant, unreachable. At the door to the atrium, you pause. Not because you want to, but because you must. You cannot enter yet. You wait in shadow while they decide if your presence is tolerable. Through the open archway, you see garlands hung from column to column, fresh-cut vines with tired blooms, wilting already in the sun. You see dancers, or what passes for dancers here, not trained, but elegant in their boldness. You see bodies reclining on couches, not from exhaustion, but from entitlement. Limbs draped like decorative cloth, laughter that knows it will not be punished. And then you are waved through. Just your hands, just long enough to place the dish and disappear. You do not meet anyone's gaze. You barely breathe. You count your steps. 1, 2, 3. Set it down. Turn. 1, 2, 3. Back into the silence that waits behind the curtain. Outside, the sun strikes the courtyard stones. Light pools between the cracks. You glance up, just once, and see the sky. Too blue, too clean. You cannot bear it. You lower your head again. You are sent to the periphery. That is where you belong. There is a wall, you know, behind the garden, near the storage room for amphorae. It catches the sound of the celebration and distills it into something softer. Not echoes, not exactly. More like memories you never had. You sit for a moment there, alone. You pretend not to hear the pipes, not to smell the roasted meat, not to envy the child slave who was allowed to dance near the guests, poorly, but adorably. You remember when you were that small, before you grew into invisibility. The festival means nothing to you. It isn't for you. You don't even remember what it's for. A birthday, maybe, or a season. It doesn't matter. The only part you'll remember is the aching in your legs and the scent that lingers in your hair from carrying jugs of perfume you never uncorked. In the far distance, someone is telling a story. You catch just the rhythm of it, the rise, the pause, the fall, but not the words. It doesn't matter. You already know how stories go. They begin with luck. They end with laughter. In between, someone wins something. You are never that someone. You rise again before you're told. You know your place. The celebration stretches on, like a snake basking in heat, unmoving, but dangerous if disturbed. You return to the corridor, retrieve more dishes, nod to the woman who always sighs too loudly when you pass. In the storage room, someone else is crying. Not loudly. Just enough that the sound stays behind their teeth. You do not ask. They do not explain. The celebration goes on. Later, when the light begins to fade and the wine has thinned and the guests are heavier with comfort, the courtyard grows quiet. Not silent, just quieter. The music is less precise, the laughter slower. The dancers have tired or moved somewhere else. You sweep petals from the floor. You collect cups sticky with pomegranate syrup. You step over a crushed fig with bare feet and wipe it away before anyone sees. And then, when it is nearly over, you hear it. The sound of sandals across the garden path. Not hurried, not heavy, just passing by. You turn your head slightly. Behind the trellis, past the fountain, a procession begins. Torches lit, incense curling. A priest or a performer, you can't tell, lifts his hands to the sky, and the guests follow, some amused, some reverent, some simply bored. It is beautiful. You are not meant to watch. You do. And in that moment, standing just beyond the shadows, behind the blooming wall of someone else's garden, you feel it. Not sorrow exactly, not longing. Something thinner, something fainter. The outline of belonging without the weight of it. You step back. You return to the kitchen. The fire has burned low. You stir the coals. The smell of overcooked meat clings to the air. And in the distance, a bell rings once. Software final. Then nothing. The day dies quietly, but not for you. Not yet. Not for a long while. The celebration faded slowly, like a song hummed one last time by someone who barely remembers the tune. Footsteps thinned, laughter dulled. The sky pulled a blanket of navy over itself and turned away. And still, you did not stop. There is always more, long after the master has gone to bed. More to be carried, more to be scrubbed, more to be returned exactly where it was, though no one remembers where that is except you. The air in the villa shifts at night, cooler, quieter, somehow heavier. Not with noise, but with absence. An echo of itself. Rooms once full now sit hollow, chairs turned slightly askew, cups half drained, linens tossed and creased by the weight of someone else's ease. You move through them with care. Soft steps, bare feet on cool tiles. The sound of your breathing, shallow and careful, is the only rhythm that remains now, save the faint, high whistle of the wind threading through a cracked shutter. That, and the occasional groan of the beams above, tired wood settling into silence. They are all asleep now, or pretending to be. And you are left with the aftermath. In the dim corridor between the triclinium and the kitchen, you gather the last of the platters. The oil has dried into a thin film. The olives have shriveled into wrinkles. A crust of bread sits bitten but uneaten. Everything smells of overripe sweetness and wine left too long in the warmth. Flies sleep drunk in the corners of the dishes. You carry them away one by one. The water in the basin is cold now. It was never warm, but now it bites. You do not flinch. You scrub. Slowly, steadily, each dish, each cup, each spoon you weren't allowed to use. The scent of vinegar lingers in your fingers. It will be there in the morning, too. Somewhere nearby, someone snores, not loudly, but with a presence. Familiar and human. A rhythm that reminds you that even the weary have lungs. Someone else coughs, once, then turns. You hear the shift of hay, the creak of a thin blanket, then stillness again. You're not sure when you last spoke. The fire in the kitchen hearth has dimmed to coals. You do not stoke it. It is not for warmth now, only for memory. Its glow is faint, casting long shadows across the wall. Your shadow joins the others, indistinct, forgettable. You dry your hands on the same cloth used for the table. It smells faintly of lavender and ash. You step outside for a moment, just a moment, into the small courtyard where the night air lives properly. It smells of damp stone and something green. The moon is out, though you do not look at it directly. You feel it instead, brushing its pale fingers across your cheek, as if to say you're still here, but without affection. You hear something shift behind the wall. A goat, probably. Or the neighbor's son again, creeping back too late from something he shouldn't have been doing. The world beyond the walls does not sleep. It only lowers its voice. Secrets still pass under doorways. Rats still travel familiar routes beneath the paving stones. Moths still kiss the edges of unused torches. You go back in. There's laundry to gather. Not yours, of course. Never yours. You bend to pick up a tunic discarded beneath a couch. It smells of perfume and sweat, and the arrogance of someone who forgot it would need to be cleaned. You fold it even though it will be worn again tomorrow and rumpled again within an hour. The motion is part of the ritual. Proof that you were here, that the night did not pass untouched. In the storeroom, the amphorae are leaning slightly, as they always do. One is cracked at the base. You've wedged a stone beneath it to keep it upright. No one noticed. If they had, they might have said something kind. But kindness is rare, and stones are easy to find. You sit for a moment in the doorway. You shouldn't, but you do. Your back aches in the same places it always does. Your feet buzz with dull pain. Your eyelids weigh more than they used to. You press your palm against your chest and feel the tired animal of your heart, not racing, not slow, just there, continuing, because it has to. Sleep will come later, if it comes at all. You rise again. There are linens to rinse, a chamber pot to empty, a coal to bury for the morning. The tasks do not call themselves by name, and you do not answer them with words. You simply do, like breathing, like blinking, like sorrow. A spoon falls. You catch it before it hits the ground. You listen. Nothing stirs. Not yet. There are spiders nesting in the rafters. You've seen them. You let them stay. They bother no one. And sometimes, in the way their webs catch the moonlight, you wonder what it would be like to sleep that high, above everything, wrapped in your own thread, cradled by stillness. But you are not a spider. You are here, below, again. You return the spoon to its place. At the far end of the corridor, a dog scratches itself against the wall. The sound is soft, but sandpapered. You do not see the dog, but you know it by sound alone. It is always there at this hour, a sentinel that guards nothing. You pass a mirror, or what passes for one. A polished metal plate, warping everything it reflects. You glance at it without meaning to. There is a face there. Yours, you think, but thinner, older, or perhaps just tired. You look away. The floor is colder now. The chill rises through your heels, into your bones. But there is still work. You light a single lamp, just enough to see. The flame flutters, unsure, but it holds. You gather what's left. 1 bowl, 2 spoons, a strip of cloth used to wipe something red. And then you carry them, as you always do, through the silence that grows thicker the deeper the night becomes. No one will see. No one will know. But it will be done. And in the end, that is the shape your life takes. Not noticed, but done. Not praised, but complete. A long thread of invisible things that hold everything else in place. You place the last item where it belongs. You pause. The candle sputters. A distant door creaks. The wind stirs something loose in the ceiling. And you, standing in the narrow space between the world's breath and your own, finally exhale. Not with relief, not with peace, but with something quieter still. The silence of the evening does not belong to you, but you borrow from it anyway. It spills around the corners of the villa like cooled wine, still red with the noise of the day, but settling now into something darker, quieter, almost thick enough to lie down in. You do not lie down, though. You are still upright, still moving, still within the domain of those who never stop moving, the unseen, the unthanked, the unremembered. There is a moment, just after the last lamp is trimmed and just before the sandals are removed from someone else's feet, when the heaviness around your neck grows more noticeable. Not heavier, just more present. The way an old scar is not always painful, but insists, quietly, on being there. You shift your shoulders as if it might help. It doesn't. The collar stays where it always is, pressed just above the bones, warm now with the heat of your own body, slick where your skin sweats against the worn metal. You learned not to touch it years ago, not because anyone told you not to, no one needed to, but because touching it never did anything. There's no lock to fiddle with, no clever hinge, just a band of iron shaped like the inevitability it represents. When you were smaller, it seemed too large, too loose. It clinked when you walked, swayed a little with each movement like a thing not yet decided. Now it fits as if it were made for you. You wish it weren't. The weight is not unbearable. That is what makes it worse. You can bear it. You have for longer than you like to count. You carry it the way you carry everything else. The water, the names, the knowledge of other people's moods, the weight of doors opened for others and never for yourself. It is not the burden of the collar that haunts you. It is the fact that you no longer flinch from it. Sometimes, when the moon is out and the wind moves through the cracks in the roof tiles just right, you imagine what your neck would feel like without it. You cannot remember. Not really. You think maybe the skin would itch in the shape of absence. Maybe you'd still reach for it in your sleep. Or maybe the bones of your spine would feel naked, too soft in their freedom, like a heel suddenly without a sandal, unsure how to meet the ground. It is not only the collar itself, though. It is the way people look at it, or the way they look past it, which is worse. The merchants in the Forum see it and adjust their tones accordingly. The children of the house glance at it with curiosity, then are trained not to. The guests never mention it, but they see it. You can tell. You feel it in the way they choose their words when addressing you. Not cruel, just careful, as if the collar is a mirror that reflects something they do not wish to examine. You move through doorways, slightly bowed. Not from the collar's weight. Again, it's not so heavy, but from the weight of being expected to be quiet, efficient, invisible. You are all three. The collar helps. You wear it like the others wear their rings and brooches, not with pride, but with a resigned familiarity, as if the skin beneath it has learned to stop protesting, and it has. No bruises now, just a faint discoloration where iron has stained the living. The blacksmith who made it is long dead, but his work endures. You wonder sometimes if he made it quickly or slowly, with thought or indifference. You imagine him heating the iron, shaping it around a mold, perhaps even thinking of the neck it would circle. Was it meant for you? Probably not. It doesn't matter. You inherited it like you inherited your place in this household. Not chosen, just assigned. There are others like you. You've seen them. In the kitchens, in the fields, on the roads that feed into the city. Some have collars like yours. Some have worse. Some wear nothing visible but carry the same silence in their posture. When your eyes meet, you do not speak. But there is something exchanged anyway. A nod, a breath, a moment of recognition like smoke rising between cracks in the pavement. You see each other. That is enough. When you kneel to scrub the threshold, the collar shifts slightly and presses into your throat. You've learned to tilt your head just enough to keep breathing easily. The first time you did not, the panic surprised you. a sudden fear that it might tighten, might cut off more than air. But it doesn't. It just presses, gently, persistently, as if to remind you, this is where you are. Sometimes the children tug at it, not cruelly, just curious. You let them. They are too young to understand what it means, and you are too tired to correct them. One of them once asked if it hurt. You said no. It was not entirely true. But pain is not a useful answer in this household. Endurance is more valued than honesty. In the bathhouse once, you saw your reflection in a puddle. The collar looked like part of you. Not an object, but a shape your body had decided to grow around. That frightened you more than anything else. You splashed the water, broke the image. It returned, of course, but for a moment you had undone it. You are allowed to remove it only if someone else commands it, and only briefly, and only under supervision. You have dreamed of that moment, not of running away, not of escape, not of freedom, just of standing without it for a little while, stretching your neck, touching the place beneath it, and feeling nothing but your own skin. But even that is dangerous. Dreams like that carry the taste of rebellion. You keep them short. There are words etched into the metal, but you never see them. Others do. They read them aloud sometimes as if testing your reaction. You have none. You already know what they say. Something like, "Hold me if I run," or "I belong to," followed by a name that is not yours. There is no room for your name. There never was. The collar does not come off when you sleep. You have learned to lie in positions that do not make it dig into the softer parts of your throat. You tuck your hand beneath it sometimes, not to remove it, not anymore. Just to feel something warmer than iron. Just to remind yourself that your body is still beneath it, that the metal is not all there is. A rat skitters past your bedding, scratching along the wall. You don't turn your head. The movement would pull at the edge of the collar, and the rat is not worth the strain. Instead, you close your eyes and breathe. The scent of soot, damp straw, a faint copper tang that never quite fades. Someone coughs in the next room. A goat shifts on the other side of the door. The household is sleeping. You are not. Not yet. You lie very still. The collar rests against your collarbone. You feel the ridges of it. You wonder if your bones have changed to accommodate it, if they have flattened or curved or hardened under its touch. You would not be surprised. You have changed for so many other things. Why not this? The night passes slowly. It always does. The hours stretch like old linen left too long in the sun, thin and colorless and endless. You measure time in breaths, in the soft sound of another slave's foot twitching in sleep, in the drip of water from a poorly sealed pipe, in the ache of iron against your neck, not sharp, not cruel, just there, always there, and in the silence between those sounds, in the pause between one task and the next, you imagine the weight again, not gone, but lifted, just for a moment, a breath, a second in which the world does not press against you from the inside out. It does not last, but even a ghost of lightness is something. And so you drift, not into rest, but into stillness, with the collar touching your skin like a name you never asked for, and the darkness folding in, quiet, heavy, endless, as if it too were forged of iron. The collar is still there, though you do not reach for it now. It presses quietly against the nape of your neck as you lie still, breath shallow, eyes not quite closed, not quite open. You are not resting, not truly. The straw beneath you has shifted through the night, and there is a faint ache between your shoulder blades from the unevenness. You feel each heartbeat like a pulse of cold through your ribs, but there is no task in this moment, no bucket to lift, no command to obey. And so, your mind, freed for once from the weight of now, drifts backwards to the before. It doesn't begin in order. It never does. It is a scatter of images, disconnected but threaded together by something softer than logic. A scent, a texture, a sound that has not touched your ears in years, but still breathes beneath the surface of your skin. The rhythm of remembered sunlight, the hush of someone humming with their back to you, the way bread tasted before you understood hunger as a permanent state. You do not choose the memories. They choose you. You see a cloth. It is not fine, not dyed, but it is yours. Was. You remember folding it badly into corners. You remember being scolded for losing it, or maybe that part was added later. You remember the feel of it, though, softened from washing, frayed at one edge. You do not know where it went. There is a field, but it does not belong to you. It never did. Still, in the drifting space of memory, it does not matter. You see your feet in it, bare and small, brushing through dry stalks. You do not know what was being grown. You only remember the gold of it under the sun, and the sound of wind passing over it like a whisper too vast to be answered. You hear laughter, though you're unsure if it is yours. It may be. Or it may be the sibling whose name you cannot now remember. The one who had a way of tilting their head when thinking, as though ideas were drops of water, and they were trying to collect them on the side of their tongue. You remember their face vaguely, but more than that, you remember the warmth of their shoulder when you leaned against it, and the scratch of their tunic, and the scent of clay on their fingers. You do not know what happened to them. There was a tree once, not large, not strong, but stubborn. You used to sit beneath it, perhaps to escape the heat, or to hide when chores loomed, or just because that spot felt quieter than the rest of the world. You remember tracing lines into the dirt, spirals, patterns with no meaning, a game that wasn't a game, and overhead, the soft clicking of insects, the lazy sway of branches, the distant bark of a dog that belonged to someone else. Sometimes the memories drift in with pain, too. A slap, too quick to avoid. A fever that made the world curl sideways. An old woman's warning, bitter and cracked, about how nothing you are belongs to you, not even your thoughts. You didn't believe her then. You wonder now if she had once remembered her own before. You remember a smell, barley being ground. It was everywhere. It is still everywhere. But in the before, it meant food. In the now, it means work. There's a difference, though the scent is the same. You try to hold on to the way it once felt, the fullness it promised. You try not to let the sharp edges of now bleed into it. The voice of your mother comes back, but not her face. You hear her singing, or half singing, a lullaby worn from use. You do not remember the words, just the rise and fall of her voice, the way she held the end of a note too long. That, and her hand pressing flat against your chest one night, when you coughed so hard your ribs ached. Her hand was rough, but it was warm, warmer than anything else you remember. There are faces, blurred at the edges. Some are smiling, others are frowning. You do not remember their names, only the texture of their presence. The way one always smelled of river water, the way another limped and spat into the fire, the one who used to carve birds from wood and never let you touch them. You wonder if any of them still exist, or if they were ever real to begin with. You remember running, not from anything, just for the sake of running. Legs pumping, arms swinging wild, wind tearing through your hair. There was a freedom in it. Your lungs burned, but your heart lifted. You haven't run like that since. Not for joy, not for anything. A cold morning returns. Dew on everything. Your fingers numb, your breath a little cloud. You remember someone handing you something hot, maybe a stone, or maybe a roasted root, and you clutched it for the warmth more than the taste. You remember holding it too long, the skin of your palm turning pink. You laughed, or someone did. The days were not easy then. but they were yours. That's the difference. In the before, the ache of your body was still yours. The time was yours. The hours were too short or too long, but they belonged to you. Now, even your thoughts are borrowed, stolen in slivers, held tightly in corners of your mind like contraband. Even this moment, this floating drift backward, must be hidden, softened, disguised as stillness, lest someone think you are resting too well. You feel the breath of the neighbor through the wall, a cough, ragged and wet. You hear the stir of someone scratching in the dust. A rat, likely, or the goat again, its hooves like muted drums. The others are asleep, but the silence is never complete. It never was. You curl tighter into yourself, as though the shape of your spine might summon the feeling of a body once hugged, once held. It does not. But still you try. You remember being called by your name, not the name given to you here. The other one. The real one. The one that sounded different when said by people who cared if you answered. You do not hear it anymore. But sometimes, in dreams, you think you catch the tail of it, whispered through leaves, or caught in the drip of rain from a roof. The fire is low. The air smells of ash. The collar presses into your throat when you swallow. You remember a time when you wore nothing around your neck, when your shoulders were bare under the sun, and no weight clung to your spine that wasn't yours to bear. You were lighter then, not just in body, but in thought, in soul. Sometimes you wonder if you invented the before, if you patched it together out of wishes and silence. But then the details return, too precise to be fantasy. The way a basket handle cut into your palm, the squish of mud between your toes, the taste of something too sweet, too fast, that made you wince but swallow anyway. There is no end to it. The memories do not resolve. They do not explain. They linger as smoke lingers in an old shawl, as sorrow lingers behind the smile of someone who used to laugh without thinking. You shift again. The straw crackles. A snore rises and falls nearby. Somewhere outside, a wind drags gently across a shutter. You think of a festival once, a small one, with painted faces and noisy drums. You weren't meant to see it. You watched from behind a wall. But the color of it, the reckless joy, still burns sometimes on the back of your eyes when sleep won't come. You close your eyes now, not to dream, but to hold still long enough that your memories don't flee. You let them stretch beside you, quiet and wide. They will fade again, but not just yet. And for now, you lie there, a hollow shape filled with echoes, wrapped in straw and dust and names that no one here remembers. In the distance, something shifts, a door or a gate or a dream that's trying to leave without you, and you let it. The memories have thinned, like mist fading with the heat of morning. They recede, not sharply, but slowly, as breath cools against the back of your hand. You do not chase them. You do not hold them. You let them slip, as you have let many things slip. Names, sounds, parts of yourself you once thought you'd keep. They go, and you remain. And in the space they leave behind, there is only the body again. The body and the weight that has grown inside it. Quiet at first. Small. A tug behind the eyes. A tickle in the throat. A hollow echo at the base of the spine when you shift too suddenly. At first, you do not name it. You do not dare. Because once named, it becomes real. And the real cannot be hidden. You have learned this. So, you ignore it. The weariness that sinks deeper than your bones. The light sweat that clings to your brow in the shade. The tremble that slips through your hands when you think no one is looking. You hide it in the way you carry water. In the way you bend slower but make it seem deliberate. In the way you press your knuckles against your lips when the cough comes, silent as possible, dry as dust. You know what happens when illness is seen. Sometimes it is kindness, a bed, a cloth soaked in vinegar, a quiet day. But more often, it is inconvenience. And inconvenience in this life is a danger. You've seen others dragged out for less. You've seen a boy your age fall and not rise quickly enough, and the strike came before the question. You've seen a woman's fever blamed for a broken dish and a whip given instead of water. So, you learn to stay upright, even when your knees sag, even when your belly churns with a heat that has nothing to do with hunger, even when your breath scrapes the inside of your ribs like a dull blade, leaving behind a whisper of blood you do not dare spit out where anyone might see. There are tasks to do, always. The fire does not wait. The floors do not sweep themselves. The garden still grows weeds, and the master's sandals still need brushing. And so, you do what must be done, with your body like an old garment, stiff, stained, stretched thin in too many places. It serves, even as it frays. The others notice, perhaps, but they say nothing. A glance, a pause in a sentence, a shared silence between those who know what must not be said. One of them, the older one who sharpens knives without ever seeming to blink, leaves a crust of bread near your place one morning. No words, just the gesture. You chew it slowly, more for the warmth it carries than for the taste. It sits heavy in your stomach, and that helps. For a time. The goat lingers by your side more often. Its eyes follow you as you move, as though it knows something the rest of them pretend not to. Its breath is warm and foul and oddly comforting. When you kneel to scrub the threshold, it noses your arm once, just once. Then it wanders off again. The world continues, indifferent to your slowness. The sun comes too early and leaves too late. The dust in your throat thickens with each hour. When the fever climbs high enough, you feel as if your skull is filled with fireflies. Not light, but flickering heat, aimless and relentless. You tie a cloth around your head to keep them in, or maybe just to press against the ache. There is a task in the kitchens that day. Heavy pots, steam that rises and fills your lungs until you think you might drown standing up. You carry the basin too far, and someone shouts. The sound slices through your mind like a bell rung in a hollow chamber. You nod. You try again. This time slower. This time right. You don't drop it. You do not let the shiver show. You dream now, even while waking. Not dreams of the before. Those are softer, rounder, colored with the wear of time. These are sharper. You see water where there is none. Hear footsteps that do not come. Smell figs in places that haven't seen fruit in months. You do not speak of it. You know not to. At night, you try to lie still. The straw feels hotter than usual, or maybe your skin is simply too full of heat. You curl tighter, your spine a question mark, your arms folded inward like wings. Someone is snoring. Someone else is weeping, softly, into a worn cloth. The rat is louder tonight. Even the goat seems unsettled, pacing its small circle as though it too feels the press of something not quite right. You try to breathe without sound. Each inhale scrapes. Each exhale feels like surrender. You count your heartbeats, then lose track, then start again. In the darkness, you think of water, cold and clean. You do not know if it is a memory or a wish. You imagine your body submerged, fever pulled from you like ink from cloth. But even in your imagination, you are called back. There is always something else to carry, to clean, to bear. Morning comes again. Of course it does. You rise slower, not because you choose to, but because that is the only way your limbs will move. The air is sharp today. The cold cuts through the fever in your blood, makes you shiver with something close to relief. But it is brief. There is ash to sweep, slop to carry, orders barked like coughs into the morning. The master's child throws a toy into the brazier and demands its return. You kneel in the ash, the heat wrapping around your arms like ropes. Your skin stings. You retrieve it without complaint. The child laughs. The master says nothing. Later, your knees give slightly on the stairs. You catch yourself. You grip the wall hard enough to make your knuckles scream. But you do not fall. That would be noticed. And notice is the first wound. By evening, your ears ring. Not with noise, but with emptiness. The world grows quieter when illness settles deep. Your own body becomes too loud. Your breath, your joints, the pulse in your teeth. You nod when spoken to. You hope the words were not important. Someone brushes past you. Their elbow knocks your ribs. You wince, but do not cry out. Pain is a luxury for those with time to indulge it. There is no rest. Not truly. Only pauses. Only moments where you may crouch in the corner and pretend to tie a sandal for longer than needed. Only seconds when your back is turned and you let your eyes drift closed before the next order comes. You survive the days, not by strength, but by silence, by small tricks, by biting the inside of your cheek to stay upright, by reciting names you once knew to yourself as a tether. The illness deepens. It becomes part of you. You wear it beneath your tunic, under your skin, like a second shadow. It grows clever. It knows how to hide when needed, how to mimic strength just long enough to fool those who matter. But at night, it blooms. You curl into the straw again. You press your fist against your chest where the ache sits now like a warm stone. You count again. Not heartbeats, not breaths, but the cracks in the ceiling, the slow rhythm of the goat's hooves, the soft cough of the neighbor through the wall. The world doesn't stop for your pain. It never did. So, you learn not to stop either. It lingers long after the silence settles, the memory of something nearly felt, nearly trusted. The night has been thin and tight, the kind that wraps around your chest like wool pulled too taut. Breath doesn't come easily when the sky holds its breath too. You didn't sleep so much as drift, suspended between stillness and a heaviness just beneath the ribs. Whatever warmth the fire gave has long since turned to ash. There's a part of you that still waits for the sound of someone else's feet, the clatter of a pot, the hush of morning noises. But they do not come. Not yet. Not for you. The sky outside has no color yet, only suggestion. It is not truly dark, but not light either. Just a soft absence of either. The kind of sky that could mean anything. A sky where maybe something different might begin. But it won't. You already know this. You've known it longer than you can remember knowing anything else. The others are still folded into their sleep, though not deeply. Sleep in this house is always partial, always shallow. It's a borrowed thing. Thin as the blanket you share, easily taken away. One cough, one name barked too sharply, one crash of pottery, and the whole room is a chorus of breathing and stirring and pretending to still be at rest. You stay still. You're good at that. Stillness is safer than motion. Motion invites notice. Stillness is the one thing you're allowed to own entirely. No one takes it from you, because no one wants it. In the stillness, thoughts creep in. You don't mean to let them, but they arrive all the same, uninvited, unwelcome, and far too familiar. Not thoughts exactly, not plans or images, just shapes, echoes. The shape of a field, maybe. The slope of a hillside where something once grew. Something green, perhaps. It doesn't matter what. The memory doesn't have detail anymore. It's too old for color. It's just a sensation. Open air, silence, the ache of walking with no destination. You were small then, smaller than now, and you didn't understand what kind of world you were in. You thought all days led to more of themselves, that if you waited long enough, someone would come back for you, or that your mother's hand would still feel the same tomorrow, or that food would always arrive eventually, even if you cried long enough. You don't think that anymore. But somewhere, without permission, a part of you still folds around that softness, that memory of softness, and you hate it, and you need it, and you wish it would go away, and also that it would speak louder, It is the smallest thing in you, and the loudest. Hope. You've learned to keep it small. You've learned what happens when it grows too large. You've watched it take others like fever, swelling inside them until they act differently. Brighter eyes, stronger backs, quicker laughter. And then, the punishment, the correction, the reminder. Hope is for those who can afford to lose something, and you cannot. So you let yours shrink. You bury it where even you forget to look. There is a girl, not quite a girl anymore, who used to hum when she worked. You remember it. It was never a full song, just pieces. Notes that looped and broke off and began again. She didn't even realize she was doing it. But one day, the humming stopped. It wasn't punished directly. No one struck her for melody. But something happened. Something quiet and pointed. Something that taught her what sound could cost. Now she doesn't even whisper. Sometimes you catch her mouthing the air, lips moving slightly when no one's watching. You wonder if she's singing in her head, or if the habit still lives in the muscles. Either way, she does it like it hurts, like remembering a taste when your stomach is empty. You think about that often, the way small things become dangerous, the way beauty turns to shame when it does not belong to the right people. You've seen flowers torn up because they grew in the wrong corner of the garden. You've seen paintings smeared because the colors were too loud. You've seen a boy slapped simply for smiling too long at the sky. You keep your eyes down, not because the sky doesn't matter, but because it matters too much. There is a bench near the back wall of the villa, beneath a trellis that never quite gives enough shade. It's a place no one sits, because the sun hits it at the wrong time. But you sit there sometimes, when no one is looking. Just long enough to remember how light feels when it touches your face instead of your hands. That too is a kind of hope, and that too must stay small. You've seen what happens when someone starts to want more than they are allowed to dream. It begins with questions, soft ones, almost jokes. What if? Maybe someday. If only. You've learned to walk away when those words start. You don't want to catch them like a sickness, because those questions lead to plans, and plans lead to being noticed, and being noticed leads to punishment. If not for what you did, then for what you might. You remember someone who ran. You don't say his name anymore. No one does. It isn't forbidden. It's just gone. Like a spoon lost down the well. The absence matters more than the object ever did. He believed something could be different. He believed the road led somewhere beyond the fields, and maybe it does, but he never got there. Or maybe he did. You'll never know. You just know how long the house was silent after he disappeared, how tight the voices became, how even the goat refused to make noise. They say he was caught. They say he was made an example. But no one ever says what that meant, and no one asks. The silence is the story now. And still, something in you curls around the idea that maybe he made it. That maybe there's a place beyond the hills where someone doesn't own you. A place where names don't hurt. Where water isn't counted by the ladle. Where sleep doesn't end in fear. Maybe. But even thinking that much feels too large. So you don't. You press it down. You carry it like a coal. Small enough to hide. Hot enough to burn you from the inside. You learn to breathe around it. There's a girl who teaches you to wrap fig leaves around your fingers when they crack from work. She doesn't speak much. She has the kind of silence that feels chosen, not forced. Like she's decided her words are too valuable to waste on a world like this. You don't know if she hopes, but her eyes are deep and quiet and older than yours. When she wraps your fingers, she never looks at your face. You think maybe she understands. That hope isn't something you talk about. It's something you fold into your palms, something you swallow whole, something you carry in the way you knot your tunic tighter than needed, or in the way you save the softest crust of bread for last. Hope doesn't sing anymore. It doesn't dance. It doesn't laugh. It waits. It whispers. It watches. It curls up beside you at night and presses its cold feet into your belly. It takes up the corner of the room no one ever sweeps. It lingers in the warmth of a cup you weren't supposed to drink from. It follows you down the hallway and stares out the window you're not meant to see through. Hope knows how to hide, and so do you. You don't dream of freedom. Not anymore. Freedom is too large, too bright, too loud. But you do dream of a day where your name is said softly, where a hand touches your shoulder and doesn't demand anything, where the ache in your knees doesn't mean punishment is coming, only that you've been standing too long. That kind of dream is small enough, isn't it? And still, you're afraid to want it. You've seen how even the smallest hope can ruin a life, and yet without it, what would you be? Just a shadow, just a breath that forgets to come back, just a body that moves because it must, not because it remembers how. So you keep it, not proudly, not openly, but quietly, carefully, like a stolen ember cradled in both hands. You keep it because it is the one thing no one can strip from you, no matter how they try. And in the long hours when no one sees you, not the master, not the steward, not the sky, you let it warm your fingertips just a little, just enough to remind you that you are still there, still waiting, still aching, still real, even in the shadow, even in the silence, even when the wind forgets your name. The air folds itself inward now, as if the night is curling up around you. There is nothing left to do, not truly, not honestly. Just the silence, thick and unmoving, like oil that has settled in the corners of the world. The last of the coals are hiding under gray ash. They do not glow. They pretend not to exist. You lie in the dark, not quite still. There's a heaviness pressing down from above. Not a weight, not exactly. Something quieter than that. A waiting. A ceiling that hovers just a little too low, as if the night itself is leaning close to listen to your breath. You shift your arm beneath the rough layer of old wool. The blanket is not yours, nor is the mat, nor is the space where you lie, the gap between two sleeping bodies, close enough to smell their breath and feel the tired warmth fading from their limbs. Everything around you was lent, not given, and one day, without warning, it might be taken back. The floor is hard, and even after so many nights, your bones never quite make peace with it. The straw has collapsed into tired patches, sharp and stale. There's one place where the wood beneath the mat has a knot, and it presses up into your hip like a memory you can't forget. You know its shape. You've named it in your mind. Sometimes it feels like the knot knows you too. Sleep doesn't come like it once did. Not quickly, not fully. It arrives only in parts, a drifting here, a sinking there, like a boat with holes, never floating quite right. You hover above rest, just far enough to feel the ache of what you're missing. A rat scurries along the far wall, bold in its rhythm. You know its path, the way it avoids the broken tile and vanishes beneath the chest where old tunics are stored. You've never seen it, only heard it. It has lived longer than one of the kitchen boys. That feels important somehow. You envy its certainty, its purpose. It never waits for permission. It never wonders what tomorrow will allow. One of the others mutters in their sleep. A half word, the end of someone's name maybe. The sound curls and softens before reaching you. You do not turn toward them. You already know the shape of their face, the slope of their shoulder, the scar on their elbow from falling in the baths. You've traced it once, idly, when you both thought the other was asleep. They never spoke of it. Neither did you. Your fingers curl around nothing. There is nothing to hold. The last meal was small, forgettable. but your stomach still holds the shape of its absence. The air in your throat tastes of dry clay and burnt fennel. You breathe quietly, so as not to wake anyone, or maybe so as not to wake yourself. Somewhere beyond the wall, the master's dog lets out a soft bark, not urgent, not angry, just marking its place in the world. It has a cushion near the hearth. You've seen it, flattened with use, softened at the edges. You've once been made to clean it, brushing out old hairs that clung like thin threads of loyalty. You remember the envy, not sharp, just low and tired, the kind that stays in your joints long after. You close your eyes, not because sleep is near, but because there's nowhere else to go. You try to imagine a world without watchers, without orders barked and names forgotten, without the need to ask before resting your elbows. But the picture refuses to form. It's like trying to remember a smell you've never smelled or a word you were never taught. You can almost shape it, but not quite, not fully, not in a way that stays. The night is thick. It wraps around your limbs like vines. You do not fight it. You let it hold you. There was a dream once, a true one, of water and wind and running. You held on to it for days, afraid it would fade. But it did. They always do. Even the best dreams wear out under the weight of your reality. Even the ones you try to fold into the quiet corners of your mind, they unravel. You hear the creak of the roof beam again, the one that always groans just before the cold deepens. It is never broken, but each time you wonder, each time you imagine waking up with the stars pouring in, the roof caved and the walls opened. There is a scrape of a toe against stone, a breath drawn too sharply. The others shift around you, in their own limbo of almost rest. None of you sleep fully. Not really. You just borrow time from exhaustion. You lie still because it's all that's allowed. Your mouth is dry, but you do not reach for water. The jug is far. The room is crowded. And thirst is familiar. Like hunger, like cold, like the weight of the collar. It is something you know how to hold without spilling. And you hold it now, like a secret, like a truth you were never meant to say aloud. The walls breathe with you, faintly. The heat from the kitchen has long since faded. The coals are just memory now, not warmth, not even light. Just a thing that once was. You curl slightly, knees drawn in, arms crossing over your chest like they are guarding something. But you have nothing to guard. Just skin. Just breathe. Just a heart that beats because it must. It is not defiance. It is not hope. It is just continuation. The soft act of not ending. You think of a hillside you once saw. Olive trees bent in the wind, the soil dry and fragrant. You must have been very small. Maybe you weren't even there. Maybe the memory belongs to someone else. But it visits you now, and you let it. Outside, the sky is pressing itself against the last candlelight of the day. You can't see it, but you can feel it. The coolness that slips under the doorframe. The whisper that night is nearly done, though not yet. There is still time to drift, to ache quietly, to lie in the dark and not move. There is still space between breaths. You listen for the goat. It is awake, as always, shuffling softly. It knows your name, or the sound you make when you're too tired to whisper. Its hooves click against the stone. Once, twice, then stillness. The mat beneath you shifts as someone rolls closer, their back against yours. The warmth is unspoken. You do not name it. You do not move away. You breathe. They breathe. The room hums with it, a chorus of those waiting for morning, those sleeping on borrowed time. And you sleep too, in pieces, in fragments, just enough to float, just enough to keep the bones from breaking, until the scratching begins again, and the world forgets you once more.